Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He is my co-host and producer extraordinaire, Zachary Allen Goodman, fresh off seeing Bruce Springsteen with a 10-year-old boy in a Saquon
Wow,
jersey.
that sounded so weird. That that is not what happened.
That's what he just told me. He said, I was there, and there was a 10-year-old boy in a Saquon jersey.
Paul said, very explicitly, Paul said, there was a lot of people there who were over 50. And I said, well, actually, there was a kid behind me in a Saquon Barkley jersey because it was in New York City. Actually, it was in the Meadowlands, but basically New York City. And the kid knew every word to every song. So it wasn't only me. I was far from the youngest person in that stadium last night. Far from it.
So Zach said to me that he's like, I can't imagine that anybody actually hates Bruce Springsteen as much as you hate Bruce Springsteen. I said, I don't hate Bruce Springsteen.
No, I know.
I just think it's absurd that his fans have a cult following.
By the way, completely unrelated, well, kind of related, you had a music reference coming up in today's show notes that I saw and I just got really confused about. It's a Papa Roach reference.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, hang on.
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, so...
You got to explain yourself.
No, I don't. It's the name of a song by Papa Roach.
Oh, okay. Got it. Okay, because I was so confused. I was like, what?
Explanation done.
Okay.
Anyway, he was like, well, it was a sold-out show. I'm like, yeah, well, no, it was a sold-out show. There's got to be 150 million 50-plus-year-olds in this country, and they all love Bruce Springsteen.
And they all live in New Jersey.
And one 22-year-old who loves Bruce Springsteen. Apparently, one 10-year-old in a Saquon Barkley jersey who loves Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
So Zach goes to the Meadowlands last night to watch Bruce Springsteen. Hey, while you were there, did you see the Orioles bats? Because their bats have to have been left.
I caught up on the condensed game this morning, so I do know what happened.
Their bats had to have been left in the Meadowlands because they weren't in Arizona last night. That's for damn sure. Before we get into that, I want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. So check out buyatoyota.com for details on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Orioles, they sucked last night. There's no getting around it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They sucked. They've been sucking offensively against some really bad pitchers. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. To explain my reference, there is Orioles banter is called Papa Roachtation. The ACH is in parentheses in between the RO and the T in rotation. And it says, Who Do You Trust? Which is a song by Papa Roach.
Okay.
And it's because the Orioles rotation, they have 3 pitchers that you can trust, and then 3 pitchers where you're like,
well, now that I know that Who You Trust is a Papa Roach song, that makes a lot more sense. But I was really confused. I was reading through it. I was like, this guy must just really wanted to put Papa Roach in the Orioles notes somewhere. I do know you like Papa Roach. I do know that.
So I was never a huge...
I thought you were.
Papa Roach has some good songs. They do. And
is it like a he or a they?
They.
Okay.
They're a band.
Got it.
They're a band. Their front man isn't named...
I've heard of them plenty of times, sure.
Papa Roach.
Okay.
Just like Hootie and the Blowfish, Darius Rucker isn't Hootie.
Yeah. Right.
But I saw them live at a Shinedown concert back in 2019 with my now wife and her father. And they opened, so it was Asking Alexandria, and then it was Papa Roach before Shinedown was who headlined. And man, Papa Roach, they just put on a good show. Mm-hmm. The show was awesome.
Better than Limp Bizkit, or about the same.
And Limp Bizkit was wildly entertaining for the funniest of reasons.
Okay.
Whereas Papa Roach was wildly entertaining because they just put on a really good show. They had a light show. The lead singer was like walking through like every section of the crowd while singing.
That's awesome.
It was freaking awesome. He was like right next to me at one point singing. I almost dropped an F-bomb on the show just now. It was a great show, and it made me respect them so much more. So,
all right.
And they've been around forever. and they still put out bangers. I think. Maybe you think it's douchey to like Papa Roach.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about them to say that.
They're a good alternative rock rap metal band.
See, when I think of them, I always think I was going to say rap metal is probably more the term I would use rather than alternative. But I don't know. I think of Coldplay as alternative. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think of them in the same way.
I guess. When I was a kid, my favorite band was Incubus. Still is my favorite band.
Yeah.
And Incubus was described as alternative rock metal.
I would agree with that.
I don't put Coldplay and Incubus in the same.
No.
So when I think of alternative, I think of like 90s rock. I don't think of 90s grunge. I think of like 90s rock. And Papa Roach was huge, like 99.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Don't you hurry me on my own
I'm not hurrying you.
I will sit here and talk about Papa Roach, Incubus.
I am glad to hear about your music taste. Coldplay, yeah.
All damn day if I want to. You know what? It's not the bat around. It's the beat around. And we're just going to talk about music all freaking day because Zach Goodman just tried to hurry me on my own
Biscuit show.
The bat around with Paul Valley, bro.
That's true.
Yeah, bro.
Anyway,
I'm not actually mad. So yeah, the Orioles last night, they just sucked. They take a 1-0 lead in the first inning, and then 4 pitches into the bottom of the first inning, it's 2-1.
Yeah.
Cole Irvin gives up a base hit on the first pitch of the game. 3 pitches later, gives up a 2-run homer, and the D-backs never looked back. Here's the thing that I want to know. Cole Irvin, he goes 5 2/3 innings. He gives up 4 earned runs on 2 2-run homers. The Orioles just got done away by former Orioles farmhands. Christian Walker, a 2-run homer. Zach Davies, 6 innings of 4-hit baseball with 6 strikeouts, 1 walk, and 1 earned run. And Zach Davies has always been a good pitcher. He's been hurt basically all year. Apparently his last start before this one was pretty good too. So the ERA approaching 7 was kind of an anomaly. Just a few outings that he just hadn't been good in, and out of a handful of outings all season.
Yeah.
So I can give that to him. But in my notes, I have Irvin, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. O'Hearn, 2 for 4, 2 RBIs. Gunnar, 2 for 4, 2 runs. Rest of the offense, SSSSSSSSS. But it actually written out. I put Irvin sucked. Hyde trusting him sucked. But at the end of the day, the offense did not give him any wiggle room.
I think this is more or less what you expect from Cole Irvin. I think 4 earned runs over about 5 to 6 innings is about what you can realistically expect. I'm not mad at it. I just don't think it's competitive for a playoff team.
I'm not mad at that. I'm mad at, he gave up a 2-run homer 4 pitches into the game.
Sure, yeah,
right?
No doubt.
And then he gets through the 5th inning without giving up anything else.
Mm-hmm.
He's been going 5 innings every other start, right? Mm-hmm. Why on earth would you trust him to come back out for the 6th? Why on earth would you trust him after giving up a leadoff double that was absolutely torched?
Yeah.
Then he gives up the 2-run homer. Then he puts the next guy on base.
Sure.
And you're still trusting him. Now look, he gets a double play, and then Joey Crable comes in and gets a strikeout to end the inning. But to me, it's an undeserved long leash for Cole Irvin. He's been more bad than good this year. And you know that home run ball, because he's a fly ball pitcher who doesn't throw hard, he's in the strike zone often. You're playing with fire.
Yeah.
You're absolutely playing with fire. Now, here's the thing. Just like on Wednesday when the Orioles scored 4 runs in the first inning and then scored 1 more run the rest of the game, you score a run in the first inning and you score 1 more the rest of the game. You cannot be that bad.
Yeah.
Your offense cannot struggle that badly, especially now that we're into September. You had 2 guys that showed up last night. And I get it. Zach Davies has been a good pitcher throughout his career. He's not overpowering. He's a bit of a junk baller.
Yeah.
But he hasn't been good this year.
Yeah.
You've got to do your job. And then to top it off, the Diamondbacks have the 25th ranked bullpen in all of baseball out of 30 teams. Yeah. There's only 5 teams in baseball that are worse than them. And you score 1 run off that bullpen in 3 innings, but you get 1 run. The offense has
from one of the 2 guys that showed up.
Right.
One of the 2 guys.
And you have to you've got to be better than that. I'm going to go into my notes here that I have for Stan. The Orioles bats have been struggling against pitchers having subpar seasons recently. 1 run on 4 hits off Davies in 6 innings. 4 runs off Dylan Cease in the first on Wednesday. He gives up 1 run over the next 5 innings after that. 1 rough off Schultz, who had just given up 3 home runs to the A's in his previous start. Look, he's having a solid season. His ERA is 3.97.
Sure.
But Oakland has the worst offense in baseball. You can't muster more than 1 run off of Schultz. The game before that, 1 run on 3 hits off Ty Block, another former Oriole who just dominated them over 7 innings. The game before that, Chris Flexen, 2 earned runs, lowered his season ERA to 6. And then 3 earned runs in 6 innings off Kyle Freeland that lowered his ERA to 5.
Yeah. Yep.
The Orioles are facing bad pitching. Now, look, they won the series against Kansas City. They won the series against the Chicago White Sox. But it's a little bit like kissing your sister because it's... have you never heard that?
I've heard that. I just didn't expect that in that situation.
But that's what it's like. You win the first 2 games. Yeah, we won the series. And then you lose in really bad fashion. The Sunday game against the Royals, Ryan O'Hearn hits a pinch hit 2-run homer in the bottom of the 8th inning. Or I'm sorry, the bottom of the 9th. It was the bottom of the 9th to tie. Was it? No, it was the bottom of the 8th.
It was the 8th.
It was in the bottom of the 8th to tie the game, and then the top of the 9th, Gunnar Henderson makes an error, and the guy ends up scoring.
Yeah.
And you lose that ball game.
By the way,
3.
Besides the double play that Gunnar Henderson turned last night from tracking that pop up, which Stan and I talked about a lot, we weren't sure how good and experienced Gunnar Henderson was with that. He proved us both wrong last night. Over the shoulder basket catch, turns the double play. But outside of that play, it hasn't been a good defensive week for the Orioles. Yeah. Not a good defensive day for Ramon Arias yesterday. Not a good day for him at all. He got doubled off, not really reading the ball correctly. Corbin Carroll's fast, and he called a ball that he probably shouldn't have, and a lot of other guys wouldn't have, but not a good game for Ramon Arias.
He did reach base twice.
He did reach base. That's fair. Hitting a walk. But I still think for me, they need to have a better and more cleaned up defensive game, especially with the guys you have. You have so many experienced guys out there, Ramon being a Gold Glover. I think Gunner's still coming into his own defensively. I mean, we've seen him make some great plays. We've seen him make some not so great plays this season. I think it's just the product of being a guy who is well under 25 years old and still has, development to go. And I think sometimes people forget that and expect too great of things out of a guy like that. But look, the Orioles need to clean up their defense if they want to win ball games, and certainly need to hit a lot more than they did last night. That's for sure. I mean, you can't really say, oh, Cole Irvin was horrible if you're not even going to score more than he actually gave up. So it's just a rough way to end the week.
Well, yeah, and so you lose that game on Sunday 4-3. You lose the game on Wednesday where you score 4 runs in the first inning. All you have to do if you're Kyle Gibson is put up a quality start.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. If you watch that first inning, the White Sox gave up. It was some of the worst fundamental baseball I have watched all season.
Yeah. They've given up in a lot of games, the White Sox.
They were ready to roll over and die.
Yep.
All you have to do is go 1, 2, 3, or at least, even if you put guys on base, not give up runs in the top of the second inning. And what does Kyle Gibson do? Gives up 2 2-run homers, and he immediately lets him tie the game back up in the blink of an eye. He gives you 4 innings of 7-run ball.
Mm-hmm.
That is awful.
It's horrendous. It's not going to win anything.
All you have to do is do what the bullpen did. Give us 5 innings of 3-run ball.
Yeah.
And the Orioles probably win that game.
Right.
But on the flip side, the Orioles scored 4 in the first and then 1 run the rest of the way. 1 run the rest of the way. You've got to be better than that.
Definitely.
And you win the series. And look, you want to win the series. That's 667 ball. You want to win series. And that's what the Orioles are doing. But now you put yourself behind the 8 ball in the series against Arizona. Who's going today? Is it Grayson or is it Kramer?
I got to check. I believe it's Kramer.
I think it's Kramer going today. Look, you have your 3 best pitchers going in the next 3 games, but you've got Tampa Bay somehow isn't going anywhere.
It's actually Bradish today.
Bradish today. Yeah. All right, so you got your best pitcher going today. Then that means you've got Grayson tomorrow and then Kramer on Monday.
I think it's actually switched because I think Grayson was just 3 days ago, but I'm going to check on that.
No, Grayson was the first pitcher in the White Sox series.
It is actually Jack Flaherty tomorrow is the scheduled starter. So
that makes sense.
Jack Flaherty's kind of screwed things up a little bit.
Flaherty started on Sunday, and people are giving Flaherty a lot more crap than he deserves.
I'm totally with you. you saw the account that we referenced last week, ARBT, we'll refer to it as. He had mentioned, and he or she, whoever it is, had mentioned that Flaherty was faking it or something like that, and just kind of having anger issues about the situation, or what. He kind of alluded to that.
About what situation?
About the Flaherty situation a couple weeks ago, about giving himself 11 days in between starts.
Okay.
About that situation. And he was saying there was more to the story basically than we heard and the media reported. But we have no idea.
I have no idea what you're talking about. When
I'll read the tweet.
Okay. But either way, like you don't have to win these games, but you kind of do. Tampa Bay has lost 4/5 of their starting rotation. Their best player is gone for the foreseeable future. He's definitely not playing again this year. And yet they're still only a game and a half back, and the Orioles are playing phenomenal baseball.
Yes.
They went 18-9 in August.
Sure.
Their toughest schedule of the season, and they go 18-9. They're playing phenomenal baseball, and yet Tampa Bay is right there. So you do need to win these games. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
So ARBT said, hopefully Jack Flaherty doesn't have a general soreness temper tantrum and get put in timeout for 2 weeks again. That was the tweet. So again, it alludes to that there's more to the story, and he had some kind of temper tantrum. The Orioles didn't like that. I don't know. And again, we don't really know how legitimate this source is, but it seems like he's gotten a lot of stuff right in the past. But the point is, is that Jack Flaherty had 11 days rest in between his starts, and the schedule's now kind of a little bit messed up because of that. But that's the point.
So he went 6 innings of 1-run ball, 5 2/3 innings of 3-run ball. Then he gives up 7 runs and 3 1/3, right? Then he comes out and he pitches into the 6th and gives up 3 runs. Mm-hmm. So in 3 of his 4 outings, he's pitched into the 6th inning and given you 3 runs or less, which you would sign up for in blood.
Sure.
With this Orioles bullpen, and the Orioles are like 7th in baseball in runs per game. So the people saying, "Oh, Flaherty, why can't you trust Flaherty? He's been good 3 of his 4 starts."
I think he's getting a lot of the hate that Cole Irvin probably deserves. Over the past, Irvin's pitched okay, but he hasn't necessarily given you length, and he hasn't necessarily. And Kyle Gibson, for the same, really for the same argument, has given you not very many innings lately. And I think right now, I really believe with the Orioles' offense being as good as it is, and certainly not last night, that wouldn't show you that. But I think that length is really the most important thing as we move towards the playoffs, because you've got to save the bullpen, especially now without your number one guy in the back of that bullpen. You need every single piece you can get. So I think length is really important for every Orioles starter right now.
And we're going to get into that further. Orioles banter today is who do you trust? And we're going to talk about that rotation in depth, because there's 3 good guys, 1 fringe guy, and then 2 guys who you can't trust anymore.
Right.
And then you see what John Means is doing in the down in Norfolk. Yeah. He's about ready to come back. I'd like to see his average velo on his fastball.
That's what I was going to mention.
But we'll get into that. We have an entire segment. We don't have a second guest today. It's Stan in a matter of minutes, and then after Stan, this was just a show today where we reached out to a couple of guys. They couldn't do it, and I said, you know what? We haven't had a show in a long time where we just shot the S for an hour. So that's what we're going to do. In the second hour of today's show. Rays, like I said, they lost. O's didn't lose any ground. I want to talk a little bit about the Angels, because you've loved hating on the Angels the last month.
I do love it. I love it.
They waived Reynaldo Lopez and Lucas Giolito, who they traded for at the deadline. They waived Matt Moore, Dominic Leone, Hunter Renfroe, and Randall Grichuk. And they did all of this to get under the collective bargaining threshold. Or the competitive balance threshold. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I didn't actually hear that, but that sounds right given the CBA. And the CBA, I was talking to a friend who's very plugged in, knows a lot of this stuff, and he said that the CBA has, the new one they put out, 2 years ago now, really made the conditions perfect for a sell-off like the Angels made. So that seems to be the case.
And it's a situation where they realized, they were under 500. They were 6 games under 500 when they decided to go for it at the deadline. Right. And now they're 10 games under 500. Ohtani has a torn UCL.
Not going to pitch probably for 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not, 2 year and a half.
A year and a half. He won't pitch till 2025 probably. And even then, he's going to be limited to start the season at least. So there's that. Mike Trout comes back for 1 day and then goes back on the IL.
Yeah.
And the guys that they've traded for are now waived and playing for other teams. You look at the Guardians; they claimed Lucas Giolito, Matt Moore, and Reynaldo Lopez. The Reds claim Hunter Renfroe, and the Mariners claim Leon. So Randall Grichuk, the only one who hasn't been claimed. Did he pass through waivers then?
I don't know.
Maybe the Orioles claimed him so they can stop beating him.
I mean, certainly hope Toronto isn't it doesn't take him back or someone else in the AL East.
It would make sense for the Orioles to claim him. They are going to LA right after the Arizona series, and they don't want Randall Grichuk in that lineup.
You do not want Randall Grichuk in that lineup.
It would make sense. Is this worse than tanking? These guys who are legitimate contributing big league players.
Well, again, they call up Nolan Shanuel as we talked about on the show in depth, and he's hitting 293. But they did that in an effort to win, and that's what I did my sounding off on a few weeks ago. They did that because they said, okay, we didn't trade Ohtani, we traded for all these guys, Giolito, Lopez, whoever else, and we want to go for it. And then now a complete 180 once again. And maybe sort of, again, because of the conditions of the CBA, maybe a more forced 180 than they could have expected. But you go out and you trade for all of these guys, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they're gone.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, what are you doing? Like, look around at the past 2 months of Angels baseball and just say, what in the world has happened?
Look around at the last 10 years.
That's fair. Baseball. That's fair. Yeah.
They drafted 20 pitchers in a 20 round draft.
They did do that. And again, to your point, Shanuel is having a lot of success so far. He's been good. Zach Neto, who they brought up a lot earlier than I would have probably recommended and not that I'm anyone special, but
special.
they brought up him a lot earlier than anyone could have thought. He's done fine. It's not about that. It's about the constant flip-flop of winning to not winning to winning to not winning. And at the end of the day, they never really do anything with that plan and that formula. So It's just frustrating to watch. And Giolito, not really that good of a pitcher anymore. I like Reynaldo Lopez. I think he's a valuable piece.
Well, and Giolito's not bad.
It's not bad.
You put Giolito on the Orioles, I have no doubts he could be good.
Maybe. I mean, with Chris Holt and everything that they have, the infrastructure in the pitching department, sure.
He's not that far removed from some really good seasons.
Yeah.
I think prior to 2022, I picked him to win the Cy Young.
Reynaldo Lopez had thrown 13 games for the Angels and had put up a 2.77 ERA.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's a good reliever. Always has been.
Yeah, I mean, that's
just head scratcher.
What is that, like 3 runs in 12 innings or something like that?
That is 4 runs in 13 innings. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good math.
The Guardians, 5 games out in the Central.
Mm-hmm.
They get Giolito, they get Lopez, they get Moore.
Yep.
I have never believed in the Twins. I think the Twins suck. And the Guardians, they've just so underperformed, in my opinion, this year. Do you think that the Guardians can play enough inspired baseball this month to catch the Twins and win that division?
I'll be honest, I don't. I don't see it. I think the hitting is so weak in Cleveland, and the pitching's been weaker than expected as well. There's been some guys who have been really good since the All-Star break. It's actually been a little bit of a trend upwards for the Guardians since the All-Star break, where they've been better than expected pitching-wise. And Noah Syndergaard, had been certainly not pitching so well since they made the trade for him. He got DFA'd. He's now gone. But I think the Cleveland pitching staff has come around a little bit. There's no bats. They just don't hit. They don't. Josh Bell has been... he's gone now, but he was way worse than expected. Most of the lineup was far worse than expected. But
How's
you're
Stephen Kwan doing this year?
I don't know. I think he's not nearly as good as last year, is my guess. But I'll put in a Google search for that, and we'll get the numbers. But
I'll just find it on here.
I think there's been some drastic underperformances for Cleveland, and again, that led them to shipping off Josh Bell and doing some other things at the deadline. Again, they're kind of in a situation where I'm confused as to whether they're really trying to compete or not. And I think at this point, in the weak division you're in, it's going to be probably somewhat hard to overcome the Twins, even though it's a weak division.
So, Stephen Kwan, OPS plus 101. He's got a 3.7 WAR, 271 with a 337 OBP, 378 slugging, 714 OPS, 17 stolen bases. I guess a lot of his WAR is because of his defense. Not great, not terrible either. 3.7 WAR, that's a good season.
Yeah, it's no doubt a good season, but the offense hasn't necessarily been quite... 101 OPS, basically league average.
He's basically a league average hitter a year after hitting 298 with a 373 OBP and a 125 OPS plus.
But really, if you look up and down the lineup, Josh Naylor, he's on the injured list. Jose Ramirez has been, outside of Josh Naylor, the really only productive hitter in that major league lineup. Bo Naylor, who's been a top 100 prospect for God knows how long, it's been a really long time now, has come up and played 49 games. His OBP is 292.
Yeah.
So it's been a really underperforming year for Cleveland, and you've got a lot of injuries that have happened to them. Tanner Bybee's been really good as a rookie, and again, the pitching staff has really kind of found a new life since the All-Star break, but I don't have the confidence they're going to overcome the Twins.
I think they will.
Okay.
That's going to be my bold prediction today, is that the Guardians are somehow going to play Inspire Baseball in September. Because I remember September of 2017, they won 22 games in a row or something ridiculous
they very well
like
could.
that.
They
I
very
remember
well
they
could.
won their 22nd game in a row, I believe, on my birthday that year. I think that they can get hot and come back and win that division because it's there for the taking, man. The Twins aren't any good.
I mean, I do think the unfortunate part is, for the Twins and the Guardians, is that they just don't stack up with anyone else in the AL. They just don't. They're going to probably have to face the Rangers, the Astros, the Orioles, the Rays. These teams are all better by a wide margin. So it's going to be, even if you make the playoffs, it's kind of just... like it was like the Ravens a few years ago, and they made the playoffs as a wild card team in I think 21 it was, and we're like, well, there's not really much upward here.
Cleveland's got a 3-game series with Minnesota. You want to get Stan on the line while we're doing
I
this?
can do so.
Cleveland's got a 3-game series starting on Labor Day with Minnesota. Then they go out to play the Angels. They go to play the Giants. They play Texas. They go to play Kansas City. They've got a stretch here where they can really do some work, get back into this division. Second place right now, 5 games out. If they sweep Minnesota, it's anybody's ball game. After that, LA's not any good. San Francisco's been really struggling. Texas has been really struggling, but they're still good. Kansas City's awful. And I'm looking at this schedule for Cleveland, and outside of playing Texas and Baltimore, because, again, they've got 3 with Minnesota starting on Labor Day, and then they've got 3 at the Giants who have been really bad recently. They've won 4 games out of 16 prior to their most recent run. Then they have 3 at home against Texas and 3 in Kansas City, 4 at home against Baltimore, 2 in Cincinnati. Then they end the season with 3 at Detroit. They've got an opportunity here.
That Orioles-Cleveland series will probably be more interesting than people expect because, again, the pitching hasn't been so bad for Cleveland as of late. So that'll be interesting.
And the Orioles could be looking to clinch the division by then.
Right.
Or get back in the division, depending on how you're looking at things. And Cleveland could be fighting to win their division at that point. It could be a really, really fun late September series. Not with that in mind, because we're not going to talk with Stan about that. But we are going to talk with Stan the fan, who is on the line now. Stan, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Zach and Paul. How are you guys?
We're doing well, despite that pretty ugly performance from the Orioles last night. Stan, Orioles against the Diamondbacks. Cole Irvin goes 5 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs on 2 2-run homers. The Orioles had a 1-0 lead going to the bottom of the first, and 4 pitches into that half inning, they're down 2-1. Now, Irvin settled down after that. He didn't give anything up through the 5th inning, then comes out, gives up the leadoff double, followed by the 2-run homer by Christian Walker there in the 6th. Stan, do you think that Brandon Hyde was playing with fire bringing Cole Irvin back out for the 6th after he had shut the offense down after the first 2 batters of the game through 5 innings?
Well, that's a call that now looks, it's a loaded question. In other words, it's pretty obvious he should have taken him out, but it wasn't that obvious at the time. I was a little nervous about that matchup, with Walker, but not overly. I think the larger story was how lethargic the offense was last night. It just was really. It was really ugly.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, Stan. I put that in my notes for the introduction of the show today, is that, Cole Irvin wasn't his best last night. Brandon Hyde maybe trusted him a little bit longer than he should have last night. But at the end of the day, outside of Gunnar Henderson and Ryan O'Hearn, the Orioles offense did nothing last night against a bad pitching staff and gave their starting pitcher no wiggle room for error whatsoever. They end up losing that ball game 4-2 because they didn't put the bat on the ball. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah. They look like they had never seen a changeup last night. I mean, they were befuddled by Zach Davies. What was Davies' ERA coming into the game? It had to be, wasn't it over 5?
No, it was approaching 7. I think it was like 6.73, something along those lines.
was really very, very disappointing. You know.
Yeah, it was
I mean, look, Cole Irvin is not a shutdown pitcher, but he kept his team in the game and gave them a chance to win or be more lively in that ball game. And I guess with such a small margin for error, we can revisit that, whether Brandon Hyde should have taken him out or not. But I'm not sure it would have really mattered the way things were going.
Yeah, Zach Davies' ERA was 6.93 entering the game, and after 6 innings of one-run ball, it's 6.45. So he not good, and the Orioles made him look like an ace.
I got to tell you, this whole trip made me nervous going back out. I can't recall ever seeing a team make two West Coast swings within this short a time. Before.
And Brandon Hyde said that too. He said that the schedule makers didn't do them any favors.
Nope. It might look on the schedule like, well, they're not playing the greatest teams in the world. You know, Arizona's been hot lately, and more importantly, the Angels have been awful lately. But it still made me feel like, you know, is this team going to go out there and be zombies? And I feel like we'll get the answer to that more tonight than we did last night.
Well, yeah, tonight you've got the matchup where it's going to be Kyle Bradish taking on, I've never heard of this guy, Cecconi, is that his name? Cecconi, 2.57 ERA, but I don't think he's pitched much this year because he only has 14 strikeouts.
He's a recent call-up by them, and I think he started one game.
Gotcha.
And pitched fairly well, you know, by that ERA.
Well, Kyle Bradish will hopefully keep them in the game, and hopefully the bats can get something going. Because Stan, like you said, the trip isn't doing them any favors. But on top of that, the Orioles bats have been struggling the last several games against pitchers having subpar seasons. We already talked about 1 run on 4 hits off Davies in 6 innings, 4 runs off Dylan Cease in the first inning on Wednesday, and then 1 run over the next 5 innings and the rest of the game. 1 run off Schultens, who had just given up 3 home runs to the A's in his previous start. 1 run on 3 hits off Ty Block in 7 innings. 2 earned runs off Chris Flexen, and 3 runs off Kyle Freeland in 6 innings. Why can't these Orioles bats seem to hit pitchers who are not having good seasons recently?
If I had the answer to that, I'd probably be working as Mike Elias' assistant.
That's a good point.
I really don't know. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that from game to game, you know, why a team suddenly goes into a slump or not. But it's disconcerting. And I'll tell you who really has looked bad at the plate, not to pick on one player, because he's had an interesting season. It's been some trials and tribulations, is Cedric Mullins.
Mm-hmm.
He's really looked terrible lately.
Yeah,
at the plate.
Got that base hit last night in the 9th inning. Hopefully that kickstarts his season a little bit here because, like you said, he's been, aside from that game in Seattle with the game-winning home run and the leaping grab, he has not been good since coming off the IL again. And the Orioles would be a lot better if he starts swinging the bat. And to be perfectly honest with you, Adley needs to start swinging the bat a little bit better too. He had a nice little stretch there, but it's been more down than up for him in the last month or so, basically since the All-Star break. Somebody who's not struggling, though, Stan, is Ryan O'Hearn. And he has the 2 RBI hits last night. Really, he and Gunnar the only offensive performers last night. He's proven his worth time and time again this season. Stan, do you think Ryan O'Hearn is on this Orioles team in 2024?
I don't see much doubt about it right now. The combination of his performance and his earning capability make him a prime keeper. I don't see any way he's not on the team next year.
Yeah, and it makes sense. You've got some prospects who are potentially coming up in the next year or so, but Ryan O'Hearn has definitely proven that he's a valuable piece of this team. He's like this year's version of Steve Pearce. He's been absolutely phenomenal since he came up, and you know, kudos to him.
That's a good comparison. I mean, he's done exactly kind of what Pearce, and he surprisingly plays a really solid outfield. You know, I mean, he's not going to win a Gold Glove out there, but it's not like you're you're freaked out when the ball's hit to him or something like that.
Yeah. He's a good athlete, and he's got surprising speed too. So a really nice season for him, and I think that the Orioles should reward him with another contract for next year. And I don't think I think that that's something we're going to see happen. Now, Stan, a guy who I don't think is going to be here next year is Kyle Gibson. He's been very good at times, and he's been very bad at times. My question is, has he pitched his way off of this postseason roster after he was left off the Phillies postseason roster last year? I mean, you look at it, his ERA is suddenly above 5, and he's put together some duds, especially in the second half.
Yeah, that's he's a guy I really like on this team. I've had a couple conversations with him, and I don't talk about that much about having conversations. He's a very bright guy. But that performance the other day was just, there's nothing else to say, just abysmal. And he's thrown in a bunch of clunkers. I do not know right now whether there's a reason they don't have to make that roster out until the very last minute, and we'll see. It would be very disappointing if he weren't on it. And I know Brandon would probably prefer to have him on it, but he's got to have a usage in mind for him, and in those short series, I don't know that you need 4 and 5 starters. You definitely don't need 5 starters, especially if a 5th one is pitching so poorly.
Well, and I can envision, because that your first 3 starters are going to be Bradish, Grayson, and Dean Kramer. You know that. And I think Jack Flaherty probably, I don't know. He might have the leg up on the competition to be a 4th starter if they get to a 7-game series. It could be Kyle Gibson, but a lot of that's going to have to do with who the Orioles are playing. And if they're playing the Rays or they're playing the Blue Jays in one of these series, I think Kyle Gibson will probably be on that roster because he's pitched so well against the AL East, and in particular, the Toronto Blue Jays. But right now, he's got to have his last 4 or 5 starts of this season, Stan. He's got to go out there and prove that he belongs, that he at least deserves consideration. Am I correct?
Yeah. I mean, I think the larger issue is who is the guy in the postseason that could get us through 2 2/3 innings, to the bridge to getting to, Fuji and Webb and Cano, is who can CNL Perez, who might factor in more in late inning situations now. And I, to me, and I've talked to you guys about this, I think in the playoffs, starting pitchers don't go 6 or 7 innings. They just don't. They go like 4 2/3, 5. There's no thought of, can we get him a win today? All of it's on the line in the playoffs. And a lot of times you need, in my opinion, one pitcher to get you 2 1/3, 2 2/3 innings, either holding a lead or holding a game where it's at. And Gibson could be that guy. I've gone out on a limb and think that Grayson is that guy, because again, the notion that Grayson Rodriguez in the playoffs is going to give you 6 or 7 really great innings, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen to any of our guys.
Yeah,
this is not an Orioles situation, by the way. This is a baseball. It's an endemic problem right now in baseball, where these pitchers are just. Look, I always bring up a fantasy baseball issue. I've got Bailey Ober of the Minnesota Twins, who was as good a starter from, say, May the 10th till August the 10th, and now he's back in the minor leagues. Maybe more like August 1st. He's been awful, and it's the same thing that we worry about with Kramer, Bradish, Grayson. He's past his innings situation. It's not an automatic. It's not like suddenly it's a piece of equipment that is used past its ability to be used. It's not automatic with every pitcher, but it's a situation you're seeing throughout baseball right now.
Yeah, well, and Stan, you make a good point about Kyle Gibson. And while he was left off that Philadelphia Phillies ALDS roster, he pitched in the NLCS. He pitched in the World Series. He's pitched in 3 games in his 3 postseason games in his baseball career, and all 3 of them are in relief. So that's something to consider there when you think about Kyle Gibson on this postseason roster. And it brings me to another guy who we could be talking about, and that's John Means, Stan, who has been pitching really well in the minors through 5 starts. His most recent outing for Norfolk, he goes 5 innings, allows 1 hit. I believe he struck out 6 in those 5 innings. His fastball topped out at 92.9 miles per hour, which makes me think, Stan, that maybe he's not quite ready yet, because before the surgery he was topping out at 95, 96, and generally sitting 93, 94. John Means, is he a guy who you think the Orioles are going to consider as a bullpen option, or do you think that maybe down the stretch here he'll come up here and start for the Orioles and give them, maybe be an opener for them and give them maybe 3 to 5 innings before they get to somebody to bridge that gap the rest of the season?
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I'm pretty astounded at the rapid progress he's making at this point in time. You know, you asked me a lot of questions over the course of a baseball season, and I think about 6 weeks ago, I poo-pooed the fact that he would be a factor, you know, going down the stretch or in the postseason. I didn't see it happening. He's clearly exceeded what I thought. You know, when he had that setback, I thought it was kind of like Katie bar the door for this season, and he'll be back next spring. He's pitching very, very well right now, and obviously it's going to be an all-hands-on-deck situation, you know, and you just start to look for people who won't make this roster when you start adding the likes of him as a relief pitcher, or perhaps Gibson as a relief pitcher. It gets quite interesting, you know. I mean, the one good thing is you can pace them a little bit by changing your roster from series to series.
Sure.
So, you know, that's something to keep an eye on as well. But he's certainly looked very well. And, you know, the fact that he's throwing 92 to 93 rather than 95, 96 doesn't scare me at all. When he was at his best, his fastball was not at its peak that it was that following year. And that's where I thought he got into problems, where he was a little too fast with his fastball, and he wasn't able to command the changeup as well. So I don't have a fear about him not being up to full speed, so to speak, because I'm not sure that 95 is where I want him. I thought he was really terrific the season where he was averaging closer to 92 or 93.
You know, Stan, that is an excellent point, because I do remember watching him pitch specifically in 2020, when he came back after he started the year with the shoulder injury. He came back and he was throwing 95, 96, and it was like, man, he's really.
I said, where'd this guy come from? And then the results tended not to be nearly as good as they were the previous season.
And he got hit around those first handful of starts, and then his last 4 starts, he was phenomenal. The last 4 starts of 2020, but he wasn't hitting 95, 96. It's an excellent point that maybe he's not hitting 95, 96 because it's not in his best interest to be the best pitcher he can be if he's going to throw that hard. That's an excellent point, Stan.
Throw at optimum velocity.
Right,
you know?
Right.
Maybe he's learned something, you know.
Now, Stan, we know that the roster's fluid. The Orioles got to expand it. Every team in baseball got to expand to 28 players yesterday. The Orioles' extra 2 players are Joey Crable and Colton Cowser. Are you surprised that those were the 2 guys that came up? Again, the roster's fluid, so they're certainly not permanent moves, but were you anticipating maybe they'd give Kerstad a look, or maybe it would be Tyler Wells that they'd be giving a look on the pitching side of things, or does this move kind of make sense to you?
It made sense for me for this trip, you know, to have an extra arm out in that bullpen in case you get a really terrible start by somebody and you want Crable to give you 2 in the 3rd innings or something like that in a game that you've sort of. I hate to talk about him like this because he's a useful major league pitcher, Joey Crable. You know, he could be a closer on a team if they expanded in the next 2 years. Joey Crable could probably end up a closer or a really important leverage reliever with a new team. But he is what he is. But I think, you know, when you have a game and you're trying to save your bullpen, you know, the guys you really want out there, it's important to have a guy like him available to you. So do I think he's he's going to be on the roster the whole month? Not necessarily.
Yeah, to me, it makes sense to bring up the extra arm. He's pitched well in his limited time up here this year.
Yeah,
and he pitched well at the end of spring training. Got off to a slow start, but pitched well at the end of spring training. Pitched well in Norfolk all year. He deserves the opportunity. Colton Cowser as well, getting another opportunity up here. I think one of the reasons Kjerstad, A, he's not on the 40-man roster. B, you don't want to start his clock too early. And C, he's been struggling the last few weeks down in Norfolk, so the promotion maybe doesn't make the most sense. Are you surprised that maybe it wasn't a Joey Ortiz instead of a guy like Adam Frazier, who's been look? I gave Adam Frazier a lot of crap all season, Stan, but he's had some big hits, but none really since July. What else does Joey Ortiz have to do to get up here, even for the last month of the season?
At a certain point, you have to trust. You have to have some trust in the people that are making these decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to give Mike Elias pretty high grades on what he's done with this team.
Yes.
And his, I'm not going to second guess and nitpick. I'm not diminishing what Joey Ortiz. He's, by all intents and purposes, going to be a really fine major league player. I don't know if it's going to be with the Orioles or not, but at this point in time, they've got us to bring him up and then not play him is not doing him a real service.
That's
either.
True.
And I don't see where he'd play. Certainly at this point in time, I don't see him unless there was an injury to Adam Frazier playing over Frazier.
Yeah, and I get that, and you also have to think about the fact
that doesn't mean that Joey Ortiz isn't a better, like Stan, you're crazy. He's a much better player than Adam Frazier. Adam Frazier's in the flow of playing with this team.
Mm-hmm.
He has gotten big hits. To toss him to the curb, I don't think would make a lot of sense right now.
And they're not going to, right? He's a veteran presence. He's got playoff experience. He's a guy who is, he's a left-handed bat that can play the infield for you, that can hit against right-handed pitching. And what people don't talk about is the fact that, like you said, one, Frazier is a veteran who's been doing this, who's been in the flow with the team all season, and two, Joey Ortiz is right-handed. And how many how many right-handed infielders do you need? I'm not the biggest Adam Frazier fan. I wish his bat would have been playing a lot better the last month than it did.
I do too. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's a left-handed veteran presence who, has the postseason experience to maybe really help lead this team. I do want to ask you, Stan, because you were talking about Brandon Hyde and Mike Elias and the job that they've done. And last year, I was hypercritical of Brandon Hyde down the stretch. I felt like he lost some games with some managerial decisions down the stretch last year. Not thinking about the fact, you know what, this is his first big league managing job and his first big league managing job with a winning ball club. I think he's been far and away better this year. And every manager is going to have moments that you're going to nitpick at. But by and large, I think Brandon Hyde has had a tremendous season. I think he's going to win Manager of the Year. But he and his entire rotation outside of Kyle Gibson, his entire roster outside of maybe a couple of players, has zero playoff experience. Do you think that hurts the Orioles in the playoffs this year?
Overall, look, I'm as excited as you can be at 71 years old. I'm probably not as excited as I was when I was 35 years old or 40 years old. I'm excited about this team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be deeply disappointing or pointing fingers at the manager if we're not in the World Series or win the World Series. I mean, we've had a very entertaining season, and I think most baseball observers would say that the Orioles are further along, that they're a year ahead of where they thought they'd be.
Agreed.
That they thought they'd be. So I'm not going to get down on it. I think he's had a marvelous season managing this team. I'm not 100% sure he'll win Manager of the Year or not. I don't know exactly what the criteria are for voters, but I think he's had an amazing season managing this team. And yeah, do I have some nitpicking to do with him sometimes? But the older I've got, I've learned a valuable lesson in what I don't know, and that's that sometimes the guy I'm criticizing might know a hell of a lot more than me.
He's there for a reason, right?
What's that?
I say he's there for a reason, right?
Yeah, he's there for a reason. I don't think he's going anywhere. We've talked about this at different times during his tenure here, that would he be the guy that takes them to the promised land? Because a lot of times during a rebuild, the manager is the sacrificial guy.
Yep.
You see what happened in the rebuild in Chicago, where the owner thought he knew more than the baseball people and put in Tony La Russa for 2 years, where his capabilities as a manager were shot. And then those two guys got fired, and now he's starting all the way back by making a tactical blunder, like getting rid of the guy, Rich Renteria, who would have been perfect to ride through the rebuild and had the relationships in that locker room. Tony La Russa at 77 years old, that was like one of the most idiotic things I've ever seen done.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
And now La Russa's back.
Sort of jettisoning Brandon at some point now, because he's not the guy, would be a huge, huge mistake, in my opinion.
No, I absolutely think he's earned the right to be here and earned the right to see this thing through to a potential championship run, and that could be.
I think he's earned the right to have a 3 or 4 year contract to do that. Too.
Yeah, he's. I mean, for all we know, that championship run could be this season. They've had the best record in the American League for quite a while now, and I'm just I wonder if it's the lack of experience that could end up being the Orioles' downfall in the postseason this year, or maybe they don't have a downfall. Maybe they win the whole thing. We have no idea.
Yep. That's what makes it exciting.
Now, Stan, before we let you go, the Angels made waves with the waves that they made. They waived Renato Lopez and Lucas Giolito like 3.5 weeks after trading for them at the deadline. Waived Matt Moore, Dominic Leone, Hunter Renfroe, and Randall Grichuk to get under the collective bargaining threshold or competitive balance threshold. I can't remember which one it is. In your opinion, is this worse than tanking? Are you okay with them getting rid of these 6 players who were contributing legitimate big league players? And how could this team have possibly thought that just adding the guys that they added was going to put them on a playoff run?
Well, there's the poster child for dysfunction, which I gave you one example of dysfunction, is when the owner overrides the general manager.
Mm-hmm.
In Chicago. This situation, what Artie Moreno kind of, how he handled this was about as poor as anything I've ever seen. And I heard Jim, I'm not saying I knew this for a fact, Jim Bowden did one of his CBS commentaries, or not commentaries, his Q&A with a guy in the studio asking him questions via Zoom. And he really, because general managers or ex-general managers don't really like to criticize other general managers,
mm-hmm.
but he really tore into the Angels. Not so much Manasian, Perry Manasian, the general manager, but said he is the fact that they gave up 2 of their top 5 prospects in that deal with the White Sox, and then turn around and 30 days later, they just give the players away.
That's awful.
It's just absolutely awful. And it's all born of Moreno butting his head in. He's a terrible owner, and I hate to bring up the name Peter Angelos, but I will. He's every bit what's wrong with the way Peter operated is the way that Artie Moreno operates there. It's just absolutely terrible to give away 2 prime prospects for that a group of players from the White Sox and think that was going to be enough they didn't think that was enough. They went out and made moves. They were like schizophrenic the way they were making moves. It was absolutely crazy. They picked up, in fairness, they did have injuries, but they picked up one day it was Moustakas, then they picked up another infielder, then they picked up another infielder, and all at the expense of playing Rengifo, who's been one of his best players down the stretch, Phil Nevin. Nevin's part of the problem there too. He's not going to survive either.
Yeah,
I don't think Manasian will survive either. I think Moreno will jettison the whole bunch.
I think Manasian has to be out. immediately. I mean, after what they did at the deadline, how they've handled prospects in the past 3 years, it's just a train wreck.
He's been absolutely. But you know what you don't know is, a lot of people, look, Dan Duquette was basically blackballed out of baseball for like 10 or 11 years. And he's a very quirky guy. And Peter got him. And do you think that if by luck Dan Duquette had John Angelos as his general manager, he would have been the same general manager? I think he would have been much, much bolder and able to accomplish things if he knew that my owner was giving me the money I needed to start a Latin American, academy. He was going to really invest in Latin America. He was not going to butt in at every trade I make. Yeah, he was going to set the budget. So sometimes we can say that Minasian's terrible when really it's the fact that Artie Moreno is terrible to work for.
Yeah,
so,
and misery loves company.
Now,
at least it's not the Orioles.
In fairness, Minasian will probably never be a general manager again. That's not to say he couldn't have been under the right circumstances.
Yeah, and he was given a ton of talent to make things work there, and they weren't able to get it done. But talk about snake-bitten franchise. The last 10 years, just been awful for that Angels organization. Now, Stan, one of the teams that reaped the benefits of that fire sale from the Angels was the Cleveland Guardians. They claimed Lucas Giolito, Matt Moore, and Reynaldo Lopez. Starting in September now, Stan, the Guardians are just 5 games back in the American League Central. They've got 2 more games at home against Tampa Bay, who is not the team that they were to start the year. Then they have 3 at home with the big series against the Twins before going to the West Coast to face L.A. and San Francisco. Do you think with those 3 additions and with the Cleveland Guardians' pedigree and Terry Francona's pedigree that they have an opportunity where they could go and win the AL Central in this final month of the season?
It's a possibility. I'd really like to also know not just who they play, but who the Twins are playing.
Sure.
And I don't have that in front of me right now. I still tend to think that it's not enough. I love Terry Francona, and you guys don't know this. When the Orioles hired Lee Mazzilli, I was the one person in town, and I didn't have the bully pulpit that I have now because I'd been let go in radio and I'd moved to North Carolina, but I was trying to stay in the media a little bit, and I was begging them to sign Terry Francona in Baltimore. This is, after he was let go by the Phillies. And they were blown away by Lee Mazzilli in the managerial search process.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge Terry Francona fan. I don't know exactly how much he's got left in the tank right now.
Yeah, he seems to have medical issues every year, too.
Yeah. This will probably be the last time you see him manage, and maybe he'll rise to the occasion. I love the guy. I think I don't know him, never met him, but I think he's a tremendous manager.
Well, I'll tell you, the Twins' schedule is pretty soft. They've got 2 more with Texas, then the 3 in Cleveland. They've got the Mets, the Rays, the White Sox, the Reds, the Angels, the A's, and the Rockies to finish the season. It's a pretty soft schedule for the Twins, so maybe it's too little too late for the Cleveland Guardians.
Well, those games against the Rays and the Reds, and you mentioned one other team in there that's not a walkover. So, but to finish with the Rockies and who was the other team you said?
The Angels, the A's, and the Rockies to finish.
Yeah, that's pretty soft. My money would be on the Twins.
Yeah, mine too. Now that I'm looking at what their schedule looks like. All right, Sam, what do you got coming up this week?
It's a good talking point, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You got don't have a guest set for next week on the Wednesday, Thursday Zoom, but I have Luke and Ross and I will be together. I'm going to talk to them today. Monday is Labor Day, so I don't think we're going to do a show on Labor Day.
Sure.
And I got to talk to them because the Orioles will be playing later. I thought maybe we'd do our Zoom later, like at 8 o'clock, so it would be almost like an Oriole pregame type of thing.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay.
So I'll let Glenn know, and I'll be tweeting it or Xing it and Facebooking it. All right?
Sounds good, Stan. We'll talk to you next Saturday, and we'll have a little bit of football talk about next Saturday as well. So I'll talk to you then. Have a great week.
Have a great holiday weekend, both of you guys.
You too. Right? See you, Stan. That was Stan the Fan Charles, who has changed up the format for his weekly shows. Now, every Monday at 6 p.m., Stan will be joined by former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley and Press Box's managing editor Luke Jackson to break down the latest with the Birds. Every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein will chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan was joined by Dr. Sandy Siegel to discuss the annual Zero Prostate Cancer Run and Walk. You can watch the shows live at facebook.com/pressbox or find them the next day at pressboxonline.com/video and youtube.com/pressboxonline. So join Stan, Ross, and Luke every Monday night, but not this Monday night because it is the Labor Day holiday. Zach, do you have a sounding off segment today?
So I clear my throat. No, I do not have a sounding off segment today, and I was going to come up with something that actually you ended up talking about in baseball banter, so we'll kind of cover that then.
Okay, so also wanted to... Normally, this would be the day that we would do your power rankings. It's the first Saturday in September. We'll push that off till next Saturday?
Right, because that's what we did in August last time. So I wanted to not do them so close together. We'll do it the next show in September.
So September 9th, we will be doing...
I think we did it the 16th in August. We did a little late for some reason. I'm not sure why.
No, the 16th... Maybe was like a Wednesday.
Oh, was it? I don't know. It wasn't the first Saturday.
I missed because of the medical emergency. So I think it was the 12th that we did it.
It was probably the 12th. Yeah, something like that.
It was the 12th.
That sounds right.
All right. Well, then we are going to catch our first break when we come back in the payoff pitch around the league. That's next on the Bat Around.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code PRESSBOX23. So bet with the best and use promo code PRESSBOX23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit MarylandFivestar.us for tickets.
Join Pressbox's fantasy football expert Joe Serpico and the rest of our Glenn Clark Radio gang at Sports and Social inside Live Casino, Maryland, Thursday, September 7th for the pro football season opener between Detroit and Kansas City. We will be there 7 p.m. where Joe Serpico will help you nail this fantasy football season. Just come by and Joe will consult you on your lineup, who to sit, who to start, who to target for in a trade, and who to pick up off waivers. Plus, we'll try to help you win some money as we watch the game. So join us for the season opener, improve your fantasy team, and have a great time at Live Casino and Hotels, Sports and Social.
Welcome back into the Bat Around. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino, Maryland Sports. Pressbox will be live at Live Casino, Maryland Sports and Social for the opening of pro football season next Thursday starting at 7 p.m. There's prizes, fun, the Detroit-Kansas City matchup, and a chance to get some help with your fantasy team from fantasy football expert Joe Serpico. So we will see you at Sports and Social to watch the kickoff of the new season. What do you think about that, man? Do you think Detroit has a shot to take down Kansas City? I think they've got a pretty solid squad out there.
You do?
In Detroit. Dude, they
I don't
played
know.
really well down the stretch last year. Jared Goff looks like he was reborn.
I don't know. That's what I was going to say. I think
defense is pretty solid.
A squad led by Jared Goff, I can't really put a lot of trust in. Jared Goff was at one time with Los Angeles was a pretty decent quarterback.
Dude, he
but
won me a fantasy championship last year. I picked him up at the end of the year,
but
and
that's
he won
the
me
thing.
a fantasy championship.
I think I've had him in fantasy leagues in the past few years. He's a really good fantasy QB. I don't think he's a good real QB.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have our draft. Is that tomorrow night? We have
Tomorrow
our draft.
night at 8:30. We can do that while we're watching LSU take on Florida State.
I really hope I don't forget. That's seems like something I'm going to forget. So I need to.
I'll
Someone send me a text.
Somebody's going to text well before the
draft. Okay, good.
Keepers,
My team last year was named the Mixon administration. We did quite well, and so even if I don't have, I need to give you keepers too.
You already did.
No, I didn't give you a third one though. I need to give you my third.
You don't have to keep.
Oh,
three guys.
okay.
I might not keep any, because the two guys I would keep were both third round picks for me last year. Well, one was a third round pick who I traded for, and the other one is Nick Chubb.
Man.
So if I keep either one of them, they were my first round pick, and I have the number 2 pick in the draft this year.
Yeah, but Nick Chubb, right?
I'm not going to keep one. I'm not going to keep either one of them, because I'm not using the second overall pick on Nick Chubb or J.K. Dobbins.
No, certainly not Dobbins. I don't know. Chubb's always a good fantasy running back. I don't know if second overall pick wise.
He's not.
But
he's always good.
He's still a good fantasy running
back. And he doesn't have. He's always the guy out there, but he doesn't have. Well, I can picture a stupid face. The guy who hit the women and he got
Kareem Hunt?
Yes, Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt's a free agent, I believe now. So
no, he's with the Saints.
Oh, with the Saints? Okay.
I believe he's with the Saints.
Yeah.
Anyway, now it's time for the payoff pitch around the league. Cole Irvin allowed a pair of 2-run homers to Christian Walker and Lourdes Gurriel, while his counterpart Zach Davies struck out 6 over 6 innings of 1-run balls. The Orioles fell flat against the D-backs 4-2. Cody Bellinger homered and drove in 3, and Ian Happ added a homer and 2 ribs of his own to lead the Cubs over the Reds in Game 1 of a doubleheader. In the nightcap, Bellinger homered again, but Nick Martini tied things up in the bottom of the 9th with a solo shot, and Noel V. Marte won it with an RBI single later in the frame to give the Reds a split of the doubleheader 3-2. The Marlins scored 4 runs in the top of the 11th, capped by a Garrett Hampson 2-run homer as the Marlins took one from the Nationals 8-5. In the classic pitchers duel, Tyler Glasnow allowed 3 runs in 7 innings, but Cal Quantrill was just a little bit better, allowing 2 runs on 2 hits in 6 innings to hand the Guardians a 3-2 victory over the Rays. Kodai Senga struck out 12 while allowing just 1 run in 7 innings, while Logan Gilbert struck out 9 in 6 2/3 innings of 1-run ball himself. But Daniel Vogelbach singled home Francisco Lindor in the bottom of the 8th to lift the Mets over the Mariners 4-2. The Twins smacked 3 home runs between the 7th and 8th, and actually that was 3-2, not 4-2. The Twins smacked 3 home runs between the 7th and 8th innings to account for all 5 of their runs as they shut down the Rangers 5-1. Riley Green drove in 2, and Jake Rogers collected 3 hits to lead the Tigers past the White Sox 4-2. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and DJ LeMahieu each homered to remind Yankees fans of what once was and what could have been in the 6-2 victory over the Astros. Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez combined for 6 hits, 3 home runs, and 6 RBIs in a Royals 13-2 drubbing of the Red Sox. Trey Turner and Kyle Schwarber each homered. Zach Wheeler struck out 10 over 6 innings, a 3-run ball, and yet the Phillies managed to lose to the Brewers 7-5. Some guy named Willie Adams homered in the victory.
Willie Adams.
Yep. Mitch Keller allowed 1 run and struck out 8 in 6 innings, and the Pirates rallied for 3 runs in the top of the 10th to take down the Cardinals 4-2. The Blue Jays smacked 9 extra base hits, and every starter recorded a hit as they won a slugfest with Colorado 13-9. Nolan Jones had 3 hits and 3 ribs in the loss. I love Nolan Jones. He was a guy I wanted the Orioles to trade for when they traded Manny Machado, and he has been a stud for Colorado. I love Nolan Jones. Jerry Ruiz doubled, singled, stole his 54th base, scored 2 runs, and drove in to lead the A's to a decisive victory over the Angels 9-2. Tatis doubled and homered, and Michael Wacha allowed 2 runs in 6 innings to improve to 11-2 with a Padres 7-3 win against the Giants. That super talented team is 10 games below 500 after that win. What the hell Bob Melvin's out there. What the hell happened in San Diego this year?
I saw an article by I think it was a beat writer, it could have been a national guy, I'm not sure, but he said there's one thing the Padres are really, really bad at: winning baseball games.
Yeah,
that was the headline of the article. I loved it.
Everything but winning games. It's ridiculous.
And to think of all the talent they have, and they've been relatively healthy, I think, for the most part. It's not like there's been any. I mean, there's been major injuries across the league for every team, but I don't remember. The Rays, for example, have played really well under really hard circumstances. And I don't feel like the Padres are in that boat at all. Like they have not had the circumstances a team like the Rays has had.
They've got Kim, who's got the highest WAR on the team. Fernando Tatis, Juan Soto, Manny Machado.
And Soto's had a resurgence. He's good again.
Xander Bogaerts, Yu Darvish, Michael Wacha, Joe Musgrove. Who's the other guy in their rotation who's really shoved this? Blake Snell.
I was going to say the lefty Blake Snell, yeah.
The lowest ERA in baseball. And how is that team 10 games below 500?
It could be, and my dad always talks about this because he really believes in it, that you stack too many superstars on the team together, they don't play in harmony. Maybe it could be that. Juan Soto, Manny Machado, a lot of personalities, big name players. Fernando Tatis, always kind of does a lot of stuff that probably he shouldn't do, off the field.
He's an idiot. Yeah,
he's a little bit irresponsible, and the team notices that for sure. I mean, they've talked to him about it. That's been documented. So I don't know. It's a lot of conflicting personalities. I mean, even though Manny Machado isn't the what he was when he was 23,
who is?
Yeah, sure, but
except for you, you're not even 20.
I'm not even 20. He's still got a really big personality. I think
he should have won MVP last year.
Yeah, he was really, really good.
Really, he was second in MVP voting last year. And finally, Ronald Acuna Jr. homered, doubled, and stole his 63rd base. That's insane. While Marcelo Osuna homered amongst his 3 hits, and the Braves survived a late scare from the Dodgers to win 6-3. That's all I got. What do you got on tap for us in Major League Baseball today, Zachary Allen?
All right, first game of the day, I will be there. Marlins and Nationals to be determined for the Marlins. Trevor Williams for the Nats in D.C. That's a 4 o'clock game. I'll be there in time.
Why are you going to the Nationals game?
Well, I've been living down at D.C. for the past few month now or so.
You live in D.C.?
I mostly live in D.C. with my girlfriend, yes.
You've already moved in with your girlfriend?
No, so she's been there for a while, but I'm there most of the time. So yeah, I'm there most of the time.
Does she know that you're saying on the air that you live with her?
She doesn't care. I also go to school now down near DC, so it all works out.
You
perfectly.
Go to school in DC? What?
UMD. You knew this. I go to grad school at UMD now.
I did not know that.
You did know this.
I did not know that.
That's bizarre.
Insanity.
Well, I guess I'll have to fill you in on the past 3 months.
I just learned so much about you.
We just played golf a month ago. We went over all of this stuff.
No. I mean, you may have mentioned grad school. I think you mentioned you were trying to go there, but it was super expensive.
Well, it is.
I didn't know you got in. I didn't know that you were living with your girlfriend. Next break. Fill me in.
All right. Angels, A's, Griffin Canning, Paul Blackburn, 407 at the Oakland Coliseum. Yeah, Griffin Bass. My dad said this morning, I don't know why, but he was listening to, I shouldn't say I don't know why. He was listening to Glenn the other day, and he said, what's Griffin's last name? And I was like, Bass. And he's like, oh, he's on Glenn's show, 105.7 now. I'm like, I think that's been. His name
isn't Griffin B. Ass, and he just changed it to Bass.
I don't think it's that. No. Zach Little goes for the Rays, Logan Allen for the Guardians, 610 at Progressive Field. Javier Assad goes for the Cubs. Andrew Abbott goes for the Reds, 640 at Great American Ballpark. Tanner Houck, Alec Marsh, Royals and Red Sox, 710 at Kauffman Stadium. Luis Castillo goes for the Mariners. David Peterson goes for the Mets. That's 710 at Citi Field. Reese Olson goes for the Tigers. White Sox start Mike Clevenger, 710 at Guaranteed Rate. Yankees start Luis Severino. Hunter Brown goes for the Astros, 710 at Minute Maid Park. Thomas Hatch goes for the Pirates. Drew Rahm goes for the Cardinals, 715 at Busch Stadium. Dallas Keuchel goes for the Twins. I honestly had no idea Dallas Keuchel played for the Twins. Honestly, had no idea about that.
He threw a one-hitter like a week and a half ago.
I did not hear that. Really?
Yeah, because you've been too busy living in D.C., being all domesticated and going to grad school.
I don't
without
listen.
telling anybody.
Do
your parents know that you're down in D.C. going to grad school?
They sure do. Jordan Montgomery goes for the Rangers. That's 7:15 in Arlington. Aaron Nola, Colin Ria, I believe is how you pronounce that name. Brewers and Phillies, 7:15 at American Family Field. Kyle Bradish goes against Slade Ciccone, I believe it is. Is that correct, Paul? Ciccini? I don't know how you say that exactly.
I don't even know.
Orioles and D-backs, that's 8:10 at Chase Field. Orioles look to pick up a win after last night's loss. Yusei Kikuchi, Ty Black, Blue Jays and Rockies, 8:10 at Coors Field. Kyle Harrison, Blake Snell, lefty-lefty matchup, Giants and Padres, that's 8:40 at Petco Park, NL West matchup. And then Bryce Elder and to be determined, Braves and Dodgers, really good matchup at the last game of the day. That's at 9:10.
I just got
good?
on by somebody on Twitter. I don't know who this person is.
All right, I'm gonna check it out. Let's see what we got.
I said I am so unbelievably done with Adam Frazier. He shouldn't be on this team anymore.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds like that's.
And this person.
That sounds like something we get mad at. Yeah.
This person, Bernie, puts up a GIF that says, or a meme that says, "Heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point." I don't even know this person. Also, I got attacked.
The worst person you know, and you
don't know me, and I don't know you.
Well,
and if you're basing who I am as a person based off of my baseball takes,
the worst person you know just made a great point.
My baseball takes are usually right. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but
it wasn't your best spelling of unbelievably though. It was a little bit of an error in a few places.
That had to have been autocorrect.
Unbelievably.
I think that has to be an actual word, because my phone loves to autocorrect actual words into words that don't make sense.
I don't follow this guy. I don't know who this guy is.
Nobody follows him. Who the hell is he? He bought a blue check mark. If you bought a blue check mark, probably look in the mirror, bro. Also, I got attacked by some dude named Tyler Sperry.
Oh, I saw this one. He
said that I'm up there with Buster Olney, Dan Clark, and Jason Lockenfora.
Yeah.
And then he put a bunch of crying, laughing emojis when I said Santander, how I love the guy, but he's been really bad since the All-Star break. And then he hit a home run. And
wasn't there a guy who made a Facebook account, Twitter account, said like Fall Valley or something?
Vol Pally. Like I get, and look, I get it. When you're outspoken about
you're always going to get criticized.
Team,
sure,
you're going to get criticized, and it doesn't really bother me. It's just like I don't know these people. I've never interacted with you, and you act like we know each other and that we have this grudge. And the funny thing is, these people would never say this stuff to my face. That's the funny thing.
Correct.
These people would never say. Just like I'm playing in this fantasy football league with my buddy Josh. You've met Josh.
Is this the same one I'm in or not?
No, a different one. He's commissioner of that league, and his buddy. He has one buddy who's like his best friend, really, really like little guy in stature and as a human being. And he was engaged to this girl like 12 years ago.
Wait, little guy as in like little character? Is that what you meant by that? Okay.
Both. He's like 5'3", and he is also like just not a great person.
Okay.
So like, Jesus, I dated this girl named Brittany. Back in 2010, 2011-ish, 2011, 2012-ish.
Okay. Brittany, if you're listening.
and she knows who she is. She and I have had...
Oh, yeah?
We are as close as you can be to somebody that you don't speak with anymore. And it's not that we don't talk. Every now and again, I'll be like, hey, just checking in on you, seeing how you're doing. She was one of my dad's patients. Really, really high-quality, high-class human being.
So more character than this guy. Okay.
Yeah, and when she and I were together, more character than I had. I was not the greatest guy to her. Nothing like mean or anything like that. There wasn't a spark there for me. We were better off as friends, but I was a 20-something douche. But he was engaged to her.
Okay.
Well before she and I ever dated. We met randomly one time at Silver Spring when they were engaged.
Okay.
I never talked to her again. And then my dad happened to tell me, hey, this girl, she's really cute. She's single now, and it happened to be the same girl. So she and I dated on and off for several years. And he was so upset about this that he made up stories about me.
Oh.
Stories about me. And he told her, one prime example, my family owns a beach condo in Ocean City. That's where I just got back from. I was just on vacation down there. He told this woman that I had a girl who I kept in that beach condo year-round, who I paid to live there and kept her there year-round and hid her from her, and that I was having a relationship with her while I was down there. Like, that I would go down there sporadically, that she would live in my family's condo that gets used by different parts of our family on a week-to-week basis. Said that I had this woman living down there.
Wow.
Just made up. That was one of the stories. That was the most egregious story that he made up about me. He made up a lot of stories about me. But anyway,
that's a little worse than more extreme than Volapali.
Yeah. This is the whole reason I bring it up is that he is in. We kind of squashed it, I guess, but I've never forgotten because I don't owe it to him to forgive him or forget. I just kind of let things go. But he talks trash to me in this fantasy football league, and he auto drafts his team almost every year.
Okay.
And then there's another guy who I don't even know who this guy is. And he talks trash to me every year because I pick Ravens players. That's the team I know the most. So I pick Ravens players. I haven't done anything egregious. Like I took Zay Flowers in the 4th or 5th round this year. I took OBJ because he was the best receiver available in like the 8th round.
That's a good deal. That's a really good pick.
Yeah. And I took J.K. Dobbins in the 3rd round or 3rd or 4th round because I think he's going to be a monster.
Maybe slight stretch, but it's still a good pick.
I think he's going to be a monster. And somebody took the Ravens defense in like the 5th or 6th round, and this guy was like, "Oh, I bet Paul's really upset." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he's like, "Somebody just took the Ravens defense." I was like, "They're not even the best defense in the league this year." Like, and then he was like, "Don't worry, Justin Tucker's still available." And then Justin Tucker got taken like 5 picks later. This guy just kept crapping on. I'm sitting there on vacation, drafting, minding my own business, hanging out with my wife, and I'm just getting attacked by these guys.
At your beach condo with the girl in the closet?
Yeah, that girl still lives. Yeah. It's so funny that you said that, because I said, when I heard about this, I said to Brittany, I was like, yes, she lives in the closet in the beach condo down there. When everybody else in my family's there every other week that
we bring her food twice a day.
She lives in the. I said that. I was like, she lives in the closet and they feed her twice a day.
Yep.
Like, it's the most absurd thing ever. I told my wife about this on the beach, and she was like, she laughed hysterically. She's like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
There's a lot of wild things you can make up about someone. That might be one of the wildest.
It was ridiculous.
Like that makes you out to be like an insane person, like way worse than like anything else.
He is insane.
That's insane.
And so whatever. I don't think about this guy ever anymore.
Yeah.
But the fact that he talks trash to me, it's like, bro, you're already on thin ice.
And he's auto drafting.
And say that stuff to me to my face, just like this other guy whose name is, I guess it's Corey. I don't know you. I don't know you.
Was it Corey? I think it was.
I don't egregiously take Ravens players. I take good Ravens players at the time that I think that they should be taken. Or if I want them, I might take them around early because I want them.
It's Bernie, by the way. So you were close.
No, I'm talking about Corey, the other guy in this league.
I thought you meant the guy who tweeted you 5 seconds ago.
Like, I don't know you.
Yeah.
You're talking trash to me like we're buddies.
That's funny.
Like it could all be in good fun. I don't know you. If we've met, I don't remember you.
Yeah.
So we're not friends at all, and we're certainly not on a level where you can joke around with me like that. And I'm not. And I'm just that guy. I don't know you. I don't know you. These people that come at me, I don't know you.
I will say, a few weeks ago, you put in the fantasy chat, you were like, this is Mr. and Mrs. Champion or whatever, Mr. and Mrs. Champion Valley. And I wanted to give you shit for that so bad. I really did, but I didn't. I held back.
Well, I won the league last year.
I know you did.
She won the league.
And that's why I held back.
And the year before that, she lost in the championship to her brother.
I can tell. There was one guy who replied. It was definitely like, oh my god, this guy. Look at this guy.
Oh, that was Tom. Tom's like that. That's thirst round pick on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Tom. I love Tom. Tom is.
I don't know.
A lot of people don't like him. I think he's funny. I love his.
So you don't know him personally? He's just.
I've met him. He was at opening day with me back in 2019 with Laura and I. I've met him a few times. He lives in Texas now. He's from here, but he lives in Texas. He's from the same area as me, but a few years older. I like Tom. I think Tom's funny. You know what I mean? So it's just so funny to me. Like, people, like, I don't know you. I don't care about you. I don't think about you. And you just attack me when I'm just minding my own damn business.
I can't wait to send a Ravens message in the middle of the draft. And then Justin Tucker's still available.
And then they're like, you remember when the guy took the Ravens defense in the 3rd round last year?
Oh, yeah, I do.
And then he had the best record in the league.
Yeah.
He had the best record in the league and then ended up losing in the first round of the playoffs. Well, because he got to keep Justin Jefferson because he inherited somebody else's team and got to keep.
It was me and you in the final last year, by the way, wasn't it? I believe it was me and you.
Yes, it was. Yeah. You and I were in the final, and Laura finished in third place. Power couple.
I'm gonna beat you this year.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
I don't know, man.
It could. Who knows, man?
If you're taking Justin Tucker in the third round, I think I'm gonna.
It's so random. Fantasy football is so random. Just like this whole conversation on a baseball show. This lasted 15 minutes. Fantasy football is so random, man. Like, I've had teams where I drafted a bomb squad and then all of them got hurt and I ended up going 2-10. You know, it's really just a crapshoot.
By the way, Ken Zales texted me to join the Press Box League, and I said, well, I've already got like a bunch of fantasy leagues I've got to manage, so I had to tell him like I just don't think I want to manage another team. But Ken Zales is really, really good.
He also
at fantasy football.
He also plays in like 27 different.
Yeah, he does.
The draft is at 10:30 on Tuesday. I have a serious meeting at noon.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be making that either.
I might drop out. There's no money.
The
winner gets nothing.
I have to check, but I think I told him I'm out, so I don't know. But
the winner in this league gets nothing, and it's not that I like all the guys that are in the league, the guys that I know anyway. I like them all.
Yeah.
I like the competition.
For sure.
But if you're drafting at 10:30 on a Tuesday, bro, I work.
That's a little early, yeah.
Bro,
yeah. Won't Glenn be here?
Yeah. Well, and that's why he's doing it, because he wants to have it be a segment on the show.
Got it. That's fine.
I work, and I have a legitimate meeting from 12 to 2 on Tuesday.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, maybe I'll just make my first handful of picks and be like, hey, anything after 11:30, I'm auto drafting.
Okay.
But anyway, back to, you know what? Let's take a break.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we've been talking about nothing for 15, 20 minutes. Today's show brought to you by Press Box's Glenn Clark Radio, which is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. You can watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Or you can listen to PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Orioles legends Greg Olson and Gary Renicky. I would have loved to have seen you try to pronounce Gary Renicky.
Oh, I would have gotten that.
Harford County native and Giants first-round pick Deontay Banks, and White Sox slugger Baltimore native Gavin Sheets. You can find those interviews and more right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back in, Orioles banter and baseball banter. That's next on the Bet Around.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate Arts Across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Join PressBox's fantasy football expert Joe Serpico and the rest of our Glenn Clark Radio gang at Sports and Social inside Live Casino, Maryland, Thursday, September 7th for the pro football season opener between Detroit and Kansas City. We will be there 7 p.m. where Joe Serpico will help you nail this fantasy football season. Just come by and Joe will consult you on your lineup, who to sit, who to start, who to target for in a trade, and who to pick up off waivers. Plus, we'll try to help you win some money as we watch the game. So join us for the season opener, improve your fantasy team, and have a great time at Live Casino and Hotels, Sports and Social.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
Soak up summertime fun in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouth-watering eats, and endless entertainment. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards. Pick crabs by the waterfront. Beat the heat inside a world-class museum and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to MarylandCyclingClassic.us.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource, home to Easy Pass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com will keep you moving.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
It's another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. Last weekend of the regular season kicks off on Friday the 8th with Adley Rutschman Night. Mystery Adley Rutschman giveaway items for the first 750 fans. Fireworks on Saturday with the return of our 1K beer run. See how fast you can complete the race while getting 3 beers down. And our Birdland celebration on Sunday. Free autograph items for the first 1,000 fans. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code PRESSBOX23. So bet with the best and use promo code PRESSBOX23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Zach, just
I'm about to tell you a great story. I'll save it for next time.
The music's playing for us to come back in. I make a funny. It wasn't that funny, but I made a joke about Zach's actual middle name. It's not Alan.
It's not Alan.
He starts laughing. He's like, he starts to tell me the story. I'm like,
I got a great one.
We don't have time for a story. We're back.
I wish I could tell it on air, but I cannot tell it on air.
Those are the best stories, aren't they? So today's segment for Orioles banter is Orioles Papa rotation. Who do you trust?
That's just such a reach.
Have you ever seen the Orioles graphics where they? I always remember the "Carry On My Wayward Son" with Mike Flanagan. When he was broadcasting games, there was one. He was talking about one of the Orioles starting pitcher.
I don't remember this.
Maybe he was I can't remember what it was alluding to. It was an Orioles starting pitcher, and the game notes at the beginning when the guy was warming up, it said "Carry On My Wayward Son." It's all the music references are random, but this one you can change. Right. You see a lot where they put a lot of graphics in a lot of different sports programs where they have in parentheses in an actual word something that makes it like the name of the band or the name of the song. Papa Roach has a song called "Who Do You Trust?"
Yeah.
And you look at this Orioles rotation, and who do you trust? You've got Kyle Bradish going today. You trust Kyle Bradish. He's been doing it long enough this year. He's got the second best ERA in the American League. Grayson Rodriguez. His ERA is sub-3 since coming up from the minors the second time.
And he's faced good teams. I mean, Dodgers in there, some good teams.
Faced really good teams, and he's pitched lights out. You trust him. Dean Kramer has a 3.54 ERA since the beginning of May. He's got a 2.5 ERA, and the Orioles are 9-1 in his last 10 starts. Dean Kramer, you trust at this point. If you don't trust him, then you were just too snake-bitten from something that happened 5 months ago.
Yeah.
Right?
I do. I mean, I trust him in the regular season. I want to see, especially with him, I think that the playoffs are going to be a little different.
You can only trust these guys based off the regular season.
That's true. You don't have any evidence otherwise.
Aside from Jack Flaherty and Kyle Gibson, none of these guys have postseason experience.
I feel like Kyle Bradish has really pitched with the confidence that I look at him and I go, okay, I see a playoff, a positive playoff career in his future.
When I look at Kyle Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez, I have confidence that those guys are going to go out there and shove every time.
Every time.
I think you have two legitimate aces at the top of your rotation. And the thing is, we talked about this with Kyle Bradish. Mm-hmm. He had a 3.13 ERA. A 3.23 ERA his last 13 starts last year.
Yeah.
And I said, this guy could be your opening day starter.
Yeah.
In 2023, he wasn't. But you're looking at what he did, and it's like, he was really good and against really good teams. I mean, he shut down the Houston Astros twice.
Yeah.
He went 8 innings of 1 run and no run ball against them in his 2 starts against them last year. He just shoved against the St. Louis Cardinals in that May start where he struck out 11 and gave up 2 runs over 7 innings. And that was against Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, who finished 1 and 3 in National MVP voting.
Yep.
Kyle Bradish had this written all over him. And I said it at the end of last year. I said at the beginning of this year, I think this dude is an ace in the making. And sure enough, he's an ace.
I mean, he already is. Yeah, he's already there.
He's an ace. Grayson Rodriguez is going to be an ace if he isn't already. Dean Kramer. Look, Dean Kramer still gives me pause because you can't forget about because he was really bad in April. He's been really good since, but he has sprinkled in a 6-run outing, a 5-run outing.
Yeah. There's been a little bit more inconsistency.
I don't trust him like I trust Bradish and Grayson, but I trust him enough that when he gets the ball, I have confidence that the Orioles have a good shot to win.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 17-4 in those 21 starts since the beginning of May. They're 9-1 in his last 10 starts. The guy wins. The Orioles win when he's on the mound. If you don't trust him now, you're never going to trust him. And this is after last year when he had a 3.21 ERA. I am a big believer in Dean Kramer, even bigger believer in Kyle Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez. Jack Flaherty, it's there.
Yeah.
The stuff's there.
It's there.
He's got to put it together. And if what you saw from ARBT on Twitter is accurate, that he threw like a temper tantrum and rubbed the Orioles the wrong way, and so they sat him or pushed his start back, that gives you cause for concern. But if
it very well could be the case. I think I did hear a few years ago there were some issues with his, I guess, overall mental health and well-being a lot of times, and I could see him, and that's nothing to be ashamed about or whatever.
If it's a mental health thing,
that's fine. But it was him getting angry and doing things like that. I did hear about that with the Cardinals a few years ago, so it could be the case, or it's possible that account is completely making that information up and they're just going off what was reported a few years ago. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And a lot of accounts, we take what they say with a grain of salt.
Yeah, definitely this guy.
Because a lot of people will put things out there that as fact that's just their opinion.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's that just is what it is.
Because you can read into a situation however much you want and you can report it as news, but since we don't know who this guy is or girl, we can't trust it.
Yeah, and who do you trust? But Jack Flaherty and Kyle Gibson, I have confidence that those guys on any given start can go out there and get the job done.
Yeah.
Kyle Gibson, that trust is waning.
It's been 5 straight not so great starts. I mean, you look at I guess 7 runs, 7 innings, 3 runs. It was
8 innings. 8 innings of 3-run ball. From
You're right. I was actually looking at the one against the Mets 5 games ago, and that was the one I was referencing. 7 innings of 3-run ball.
Right.
8 innings of 3-run ball more recently.
Against the Blue Jays, the 8 innings of 3-run ball, but those 3 runs came pretty early in the game, and you thought that maybe he didn't have it and he settled in. If you're going up against the Toronto Blue Jays in the series, I think you have to have Kyle Bradish start because he's earned that because of just how damn good he's been against the Blue Jays this year. Anybody else, I don't think he can make your postseason rotation.
I agree with that.
Cole Irvin, I have not trusted him at any point this year. Anytime he goes out there and pitches well, I'm like, wow. The Orioles kind of walked a tightrope on that one and came out on the other side.
Yeah.
I think you are playing with fire every time Cole Irvin takes the mound. And I want him to be good. I want him to have... He's an Oriole. I want him to have success. I don't trust that he's ever going to. I'm more inclined to see a start like last time and be like, that's Cole Irvin, rather than the guy who went 7 innings against the Twins, right? Or the guy who went 6 innings against I think it was the Blue Jays. I don't think that he's that guy right now. I don't think that he is a guy who should be part of a 5-man rotation on a good team.
Agreed.
Last year he threw 180 innings and he had a 3.98 ERA.
Yeah.
I remember one year David Hess had a 3.98 ERA. And that was because he put together a handful of really nice starts down the stretch. You can have a 4.5 to 5 ERA, and then put together 5 or 6 good starts.
Right.
The last month of the season, and end up with a 3.98.
And the problem with Irvin is that you saw it on the changeup that was hung last night for the home run. The stuff just isn't very good.
No.
That's the overall problem. And when your stuff isn't very good, you've got to be pinpoint location-wise, and he's really not.
He's a fly ball pitcher.
He is a fly ball pitcher.
I trust him more pitching in Camden Yards.
Stuff hangs.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is he's got the pinpoint control.
Sometimes.
More so since he was brought back up.
Yeah,
At the beginning
I mean,
of the year, it wasn't there.
Well, again, in the condensed game I was able to watch, there were some really quality strikes last night, but then there were a lot of not very quality strikes.
He throws a lot of strikes.
Mm-hmm. He does. He fills up the zone.
He fills up the zone, and that's going to get hit. Because his stuff isn't overpowering,
right.
He's going to get hit.
I mean, even 90, pinpointed on the outside corner, some guys can just lay the bat out there, shoot it to the opposite field, in the gap, get a double out of that. I mean, it's not that hard to do.
If he gets through a lineup twice in 5 innings and gives up 2 runs, you've won. Not the game, but you've won with him by putting him on the mound. Get him out.
Yep.
He should not be facing a lineup a third time.
Yep.
Ever. If that guy gives you 5 innings, a 2-run ball, count your blessings, go to the bullpen. And the Orioles bullpen right now is really freaking good.
Yeah.
They're really, really good. Go to the bullpen, count your blessings, keep yourself in that game. If he doesn't come out for the 6th inning, that game's 2-2, and it's a different ball game going into the 9th inning last night. So for me, I don't trust Irvin. I don't think he's on the playoff roster.
I don't either.
I don't trust Gibson unless it's against the Blue Jays. And even then, Blue Jays offense is really good.
Yeah.
You know,
they can hurt you at any time.
They can hurt anybody.
Sure.
Right? So for me, it's Gibson can't be on a postseason roster. Irvin can't be on a postseason roster. Jack Flaherty, he's got to really come out here his last several starts for the Orioles and prove that he belongs. And that sucks because he's a guy who you traded for at the deadline. And then John Means down in the minors. And Stan made an excellent point. 93 miles an hour, topping out at 93, basically 92.9. Maybe it's because that's what makes him a better pitcher.
It might be a good thing. Sure.
You know, and his changeup still it looks as deadly as ever.
Unbelievable.
It looks as deadly as ever. I could see I could envision a scenario where John Means makes the Orioles postseason roster and maybe his first start is in the postseason.
Yeah, I could very well.
I still think that they're going to bring him up before then, but maybe they just let him finish the season at Norfolk, and then he's already on your 40-man, so he's postseason eligible. You can put him on your postseason roster, and he can get a start for
Right. I see no way he comes back up, and immediately they say, okay, here's the start. I think it's going to be 3 bullpen games at least for him, where he comes out and works 2 or 3 innings.
But I don't know about that because now you're deloading him. Right? You're stretching him out. He threw 85 pitches, 5 innings, 1 hit the other day. Why are you stretching him out to 5, maybe 6 innings in his next start or 2 starts from now, just to bring him up and have him out of the bullpen?
Okay,
I think their full intention is to have him be in their rotation.
If he's replacing Cole Irvin, I say okay, great.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a very positive thing. And I don't know, again, we really don't know what to expect from John Means. I have no clue. I think it's a complete box of chocolates, as Forrest Gump would say. I think we don't know what we're getting at all. However, there's probably more good out of it, a higher ceiling than what you're going to get with Cole Irvin. I think with Cole Irvin, you're really getting most times 4 to 6 innings, 3 or 4 runs.
I can also envision a scenario in which John Means comes up and is now your starter, and you have Cole Irvin in your bullpen.
Sure,
to
that
take over.
Would work. That would work.
Or Tyler Wells. I think you're more likely to see John Means and Tyler Wells on the postseason roster than Gibson and Irvin.
Okay.
You know?
I think Gibson's going to be there. I really do. I just think with his experience last year,
he's going to be there because Brandon Hyde loves veterans.
Yeah.
And look, it's close, but he's been more good than bad this year. I think he's second on the team in quality starts. He's also had 11 starts where he's given up 4 runs or more. But I think he's going to be there because he's a veteran presence who has experience. But I think he's going to be there as a bullpen piece, not a rotation piece. And we've seen his entire postseason career, which consists of exactly 3 games.
3.1 innings, yeah.
He's come out of the bullpen each time. So I would expect that that's going to be the case for him again this year. I do think he's going to be on a postseason roster. If it were me, but I'm not the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, I wouldn't have him.
And a really bad introduction to the playoffs for him in 2019. Gave up 3 runs in 1 inning.
Yeah.
But then since then hasn't given up any runs in his 2 innings of work. So not a really big sample size. Nothing really to go off of. But I want to say, Gibson's been around a while. He was on some good Minnesota Twins teams. He was on good Phillies teams, even though he got left off the roster in some of those playoff situations. But I think that he's still better than what you have as far as playoff experience goes, even though it's not a lot.
Yeah. So, look, I think that it's a foregone conclusion that your postseason rotation is Bradish, Grayson, Kramer. And then if you get to a 7-game series, maybe it's John Means with Flaherty and Gibson in the bullpen. And maybe that's what you're looking at there. I agree with Stan that they don't care about getting wins for pitchers in the postseason. But if your starting pitcher's really good, you're keeping them in for 6 innings.
Yeah.
No
doubt.
You're not going to take them out just because you like a matchup better in a close game. If maybe you are, because Brandon Hyde does love to match up. And again, I'm not hating on Brandon Hyde by any stretch. I have come around this year. I think he's done a phenomenal job.
He has done.
You can't argue with it.
It's undeniable based on the win number.
They're 83 and 51.
Right.
And I think he has been night and day better than he was last year.
I agree. I think the pitching decisions were my biggest complaint last year, where I said, you're taking guys out too early. You're not giving the bullpen the correct amount of work. This year, I think it's been better, not perfect, and no one's ever perfect. Bob Melvin, the best managers in the league, aren't perfect by any means.
What he did on that September 7th game, where Tyler Wells had been on the IL for 6 weeks, Dean Kramer had been shoving and was your best starting pitcher at that point, and had just, in his previous start against the Blue Jays, had gone 7 innings, a 2-run ball, and he's supposed to start that night against Toronto, and instead he gives the start to Tyler Wells. I hated that. I thought that was such a terrible move. And that was, to me, that was just it was one of the many boneheaded, in my opinion, decisions that he made down the stretch to cost the Orioles the playoffs.
It was really frustrating.
This year, to this point, he has been well more good than bad.
Yeah, agreed.
I think he's had a very, very nice season.
Agreed.
What do you want to do? Let's take a break because we have to figure out take to rake.
Okay.
So we're going to take our final break, and then when we come back in, we'll do baseball banter. We're going to go over our preseason predictions to see how they've panned out to this point, and then we'll do take to rake, but I got to figure it out in this break. I want to remind you, the latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is he ready to take the Ravens to the next level with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick and what they bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from college football and soccer programs around the state. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back in, baseball banter and take to rake. That's next on the Bat Around.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to marylandcyclingclassic.us.
Catch that festival feeling in Charm City. Everywhere you go, you'll find exciting entertainment, delicious eats, and endless summertime fun. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards, pick crabs by the waterfront, beat the heat inside a world-class museum, and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
It's another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. Last weekend of the regular season kicks off on Friday the 8th with Adley Rutschman Night. Mystery Adley Rutschman giveaway items for the first 750 fans. Fireworks on Saturday with the return of our 1K beer run. See how fast you can complete the race while getting 3 beers down. And our Birdland celebration on Sunday. Free autograph items for the first 1,000 fans. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the Eastern Shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Welcome back into the Bat Around, rolling right along here on the show today. We now have a segment, since we didn't book a guest for this week, and that was, I tried. I wanted to get Connor Newcomb on here because he was carrying water for Kyle Gibson last week during his terrible start. I'm not hating on Connor. I just
wanted greater insight into his opinion.
I wanted to have him on to discuss it because he and I had very differing opinions on that. And then I tried to get John Mioli, and when John couldn't do it because he was in Connecticut with the family, I decided that I was just going to have just a Zachary Allen Goodman show with PV3.
Yeah.
And here we are. All right, so baseball banner, our preseason predictions revisited. We're going to start with the standings. My AL East standings, I predicted was going to be the Yankees, Toronto, Baltimore, Tampa Bay, and Boston. Now, the caveat here is I said, and I remember saying this on the show, that the Yankees, because I thought that their offense could be good enough, and I thought their rotation was maybe the best in the division, maybe the best in the American League, I put them there. But I also said this team has a lot of guys who have a lot of injury history, and if they get hurt, they're not going to have a good year. What happened? They got hurt, and now they suck.
That's one way to put it. Yeah, I looked at Garrett Cole and the number of Aaron Judge,
Nestor Cortez,
Aaron
who was
Judge
a better
coming
pitcher
back.
than Cole last
Nestor
year.
Cortez.
They signed Rodon, who's had 7 starts and been terrible.
I figured Jason Dominguez would be up earlier than he is, and
Domingo Herman.
Things looked good for them, and they're the New York Yankees. They've had winning records forever. They're really hard to bet against. So I had them in first place as well. Then the Blue Jays, Rays, Orioles, Red Sox. I was dead wrong, except for the Red Sox being in last place.
Well, no, you are wrong because the Yankees are in last place.
Oh, that's true. You're absolutely correct. The Yankees are in last place.
And Tampa Bay is in second place, somehow a game and a half out.
I believe I said that the Blue Jays and the Rays would be really close, and that's not all that far off, but the Rays are quite a bit better.
They're like 8 games better.
Yeah, they're 8 games better. But there's been points in the season where I feel like the Blue Jays should have played a lot better than they did, and they've underperformed. The
entire season, we'll get to more.
Guerrero didn't have quite the season everyone expected.
No, I think O'Hearn has a higher WAR than Guerrero does.
That's interesting.
And you look at it, Orioles lead Tampa Bay by a game and a half. The Yankees are in last place and are under 500. You go to the AL Central. I picked Cleveland, Chicago, Kansas City, Minnesota, and Detroit. Minnesota leads Cleveland by 5 games. Kansas City's in last place, and the White Sox are in 4th, 2 of the worst teams in baseball.
I had Guardians, Twins, Sox, Royals, Tigers. Nobody's really been good. That's the moral of the story for this division. Nobody's been good.
Nobody wants it. AL West, I had Houston, Angels, Seattle, Texas, Oakland. I thought that the Angels did enough in the offseason. Trout healthy, Ohtani, Rendon healthy. I was like, this team's going to be
Chris Davis, Rendon.
And sure enough, you have Seattle and Houston tied atop the division. The Angels are in 4th place, and they're in complete shambles. Texas is in 3rd place, but they've played terribly recently. They had like a recent 8 or 9 game losing streak. They have been awful recently, which is shocking because of all the money they spent, all the guys that they brought in. They'll get hot down the stretch here, I have to imagine.
But Jacob deGrom, I mean, that's the big loss, and we're going to talk about him in a second because I made a somewhat bad prediction. But that's the exact standings I have, or the place they're in right now.
You thought Seattle would be in 1st place?
Oh, I thought they were tied with the Astros right now. I have Astros, Mariners, Rangers, Angels, A's.
Gotcha.
That's what I have.
In the NL East, I had the Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, the Marlins, and Washington.
Same.
I had the Mets beating the Astros in 6 games in the World Series. Well, you have Atlanta, Philadelphia, Miami, the Mets, Washington. Philadelphia, to not think that they were going to come back to not think they were going to come back this year, and when they got healthy, you're not paying attention. This team is doing exactly what they did last year. Bryce Harper hit 11 home runs in August. His power is fully back. Trey Turner is fully back. Kyle Schwarber can't hit the broadside of the barn, but when he does, it's a home run.
Yeah.
This team, they hit, they pitch. They're going to be really tough out in the playoffs, and they're making it. They're going to be the second wild card, the first wild card team. They're making the playoffs. They're really good.
Yeah, this division's odd. The Nats better than expected, I think. I mean, they're in the mid 60s. They're going to get to over 70 wins. Way better than I thought they'd be. A lot of young talent. They might be better than a few other teams in this division in just a few years. I mean, it's plausible to say that. The Marlins, better than I expected as well. I think they've been okay.
I thought the Marlins were going to be decent this year. I remember doing a write-up about
them.
I
didn't.
And saying, if you look at their rotation,
it was really good.
Their rotation looks really good.
It did.
And they have enough guys in their lineup to put the bat on the ball by adding Arise, by adding Gurriel, Jorge Soler. I looked at those guys, and I was like, they're not going to win the division, but they could be sneaky good.
I mean, they were in 1st place for a little bit, not long, and then the Braves became the Braves. It was very early in the season. But the Marlins, probably, in my opinion, I guess a little better than I expected. You, a little worse than you expected.
They're still in the wild card hunt.
They are. They're in the wild card hunt. They face off against the Nats today. They have a chance to really take that series and gain some ground. So it's possible. The Mets, way worse than anyone could have ever expected. They trade off everyone. It's
New York Mets baseball. New owner be damned. It's the Mets.
Billy Epler, the former Angels GM, so running it all. Again, the Braves just own this division. They're probably going to own it for the next 5 years.
Yeah,
they're just unbelievable.
They locked up all their young talent, and they're going to be there for the foreseeable future. Orioles do the same. You go to NL Central. I had St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. You look at the actual standings: Milwaukee, Chicago, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis. St. Louis is the biggest travesty in baseball next to the Angels. I have to think that team has so much talent, and they've been so bad this year. I cannot envision a scenario in which the entire coaching staff is not fired this offseason.
You would have to think so. Although it's a new manager, though, correct? I believe it's just a first-year or second-year manager.
Yeah, I think I picked him in
Ollie Marmol, I believe his name is.
Yeah, I think I picked him to be National League Manager of the Year, and I was way off. They've been awful.
They've been really
and
bad.
Adam Wainwright, I mean, he's got to be retired. I think he is retiring at the end of the year. This bad swan song for him, really bad swan song. And then you go out to the national. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say?
I had Cardinals, Brewers, Cubs, Pirates, Reds. Way off on the Reds. Not even close.
Everybody was.
Yeah, and the Brewers. I guess I didn't really think they were going to be very good. They're better
every year. Somehow.
They're better than expected. And even though some guys have kind of underperformed, they've been better than expected. They're always a pretty complete team.
I still think the Cubs are the class of that division right now. They've gotten so hot recently. I think the Cubs are the best team in that division right now. Then you go to the West. I had San Diego, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Cardinals, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Colorado Rockies.
I had the same.
Dodgers, Arizona, San Francisco, San Diego, Colorado. San Diego, we talked about earlier in the show, 10 games under 500. Arizona and San Francisco are tied for that third and final wild card spot. The Dodgers are the Dodgers. And we talked about at the beginning of the year that they didn't do anything about the left side of their infield, and Stan had them ranked 15th in his power rankings to start the year. I said their starting rotation, they've got Mookie Betts, they've got Freddie Freeman. this is still a really good team. Yeah. They're proving it. They're one of the best teams in baseball.
I think just to put in perspective how bad the Padres are, they have one more win than Washington.
Yeah.
One more.
It's insane.
And you look at that and you go, okay, the Nationals traded them Juan Soto last year, and then, it's really been all downhill from there for the Padres. They haven't been good since that trade. And what happened was, even Soto's had a resurgence. They've just been really bad. They've been really bad. And again, the Nats have been a lot better than expected, to be fair. But
they have... it does not make sense to me that their lineup is what it is. Their starting rotation is
Blake
what
Snell
it is.
being one of the best starters in the entire Major Leagues.
Snell,
and
Darvish, Musgrove.
It's unbelievable.
And who's the other guy? Michael Wacha.
Michael
They've been
Wacha.
so damn good in their rotation. How are you 10 games under 500? It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm angry. Now we're going to go to the awards. MVP in the American League, I had my top three was Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Adley Rutschman. Shohei Ohtani's likely to win. I can't think of anybody else who's going to win over him. But the fact that he's not pitching now probably is a bit of a knock against him. But I think he's done enough to this point, and he's probably going to finish the year leading the majors in home runs, unless he and Matt Olson are like neck and neck. He's got to win the MVP, right?
I would think so.
Who else is going to do it?
It has to be him.
Yeah,
it has to be him. I don't think there's anyone else in that stratosphere.
Yeah. So
Matt Olson's hit a lot of home runs, but I don't know.
Yeah, but they're in two different leagues.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's what you call a brain aneurysm on live radio. I don't know why I can never remember that Matt Olson is in the National League now.
Yeah,
I just always think he's
American with the Braves. Mike Trout has played like 47 games this year.
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman, he's been good, not MVP level. Not MVP.
No, I mean,
and the way he started the year, I was feeling really good about it. But he's since about the middle to end of May,
been okay.
Offensively, I think that he gets on base. He has,
but
really
it's not
good
that high.
bats.
It's only been like 330. I think the OBP is right now.
His OBP is like 367.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's going into that series. He was like at some point in the White Sox series, he said at least 367.
Oh, you're right.
OBP is seventh in the American League. I think he's tops among catchers.
Yeah, you're right. It's a 365 right now. Again, my facts are off.
Yeah,
but he's hitting 273 and he's hit 16 home runs. There's a lot to like there, but it hasn't been MVP level.
Yeah,
not up there.
And again, it's his first full season. He's only going to get better.
Yeah.
I think that and he's been really good. He's been really good.
Yeah.
He's just not MVP level.
Sure.
I anointed him probably a little too early.
I know what I saw. I was thinking of a stat since the All-Star break. The on-base percentage has been around 323, I think, is a stat someone posted online because they were comparing him to James McCann, and the on-base percentage for James McCann lately has been quite good.
Yeah, somebody tried to say that James McCann should be the starting catcher over Adley.
Oh boy, that's not a conversation we're gonna have.
It was the same guy who crapped on me, the Tyler Sperry guy. I saw.
Oh, that guy, nice.
Yeah, he's an idiot. What else was I gonna say? Nothing. In the National League,
I didn't. My MVP was actually going to be. It was going to be Shohei and Machado. So, not.
Well, I didn't talk about my National League MVP yet.
Obviously, I'm just going. Okay, sorry, I have it listed in a different way than you.
I had Trey Turner, Juan Soto, Paul Goldschmidt. Trey Turner's had a resurgence the last month or so, but
he has.
He hasn't played at an MVP level,
and certainly not for the contract he got.
And Juan Soto, if his team was in first place, maybe you'd be talking about that. Paul Goldschmidt, I'm not sure what type of season Goldschmidt's had.
I think it's been good, but not MVP level.
Yeah, let me look it up real quick. You type in Gold, and he's the first guy that pops up. I mean, he's hitting 276, 22 homers, 10 stolen bases. He's got a 365 on base percentage, 125 OPS plus. Good, not MVP like he was last year. It's been a good Paul Goldschmidt season, but he has.
Sure.
Aside from Arenado, there's nobody else in that lineup.
And Manny Machado, we touched on the Padres' struggles. He's batting, he's slashing right now 247. And 312, 448, 761 OPS, 111 OPS plus.
It's 2017 Manny Machado.
Not great. Yeah,
Machado blew up in July and August in 2017. Carried the team offensively, but aside from that, he was a league.
And last year, to be fair, he probably should have won MVP. He was right up there. He was really, really good.
And look, I don't think that you can discount the fact that Machado signed an 11-year contract extension. This year, and. Maybe because of all the turmoil around that, him saying I'm playing for the Padres now. I don't know if I'm going to be in the future, blah, blah, blah. There's probably a little bit of that weighing on him.
Probably. And there was a whole opt-out situation where and that's why they redid the contract 11 years and he got it all. But Probably not my best pick because we probably should have seen this coming with Manny. He's, after last year, probably due for a down year.
He'll bounce back in a big way next
He will.
year. I have no doubts about that. Now, what MVP is going to come down to is Freeman and Acuna.
Yeah,
and
undoubtedly.
Freddie Freeman is on pace to become the first player since 1936 to have a 60 double season. He's hitting well over 330. He is absolutely insane. And he's a Gold Glove defender at first base. He's absolutely insane as a overall baseball player.
He's unreal.
Ronald Acuna Jr. Maybe he's just that much, just a little bit better. I mean, right around the same batting average, right around the same OPS. He's got the 30 homers. I think he's got a little more power than Freeman right now.
Yeah,
but he's 63 stolen bases.
It's a new record. Acuna is the best player in the world right now.
Yeah,
now that Ohtani's not pitching, I think it's fair to say that.
Yeah, he's It's going to come down to Freeman and Acuna.
Yeah.
They're the two best teams in the National League. Whoever wins, you can't have a gripe. You can't have a gripe. They're going to finish 1-2 in MVP voting.
Yeah.
Whoever wins is well deserving.
Totally agree.
Then you go to the Cy Young. In the American League, I had Jacob deGrom, Shane McClanahan, Alek Manoah. deGrom, Tommy John surgery. Shane McClanahan, Tommy John surgery. Alek Manoah demoted twice. I think it's probably Garrett Cole by default.
It's going to be Garrett Cole. And Kyle Bradish is right up there numbers-wise, but he's not going to get the recognition because he's Kyle Bradish, and he's not a well-known commodity around the league like Garrett Cole is.
He will be, though.
Yeah, he will be eventually, and hopefully.
And the people that are the important people, like on MLB Network, they're paying.
Oh,
attention.
They know.
They know.
Garrett Cole though is just Garrett Cole, former number 1 overall pick. He's got the $300 million to play with the Yankees. I mean, he's just going to get that publicity that I don't think Kyle Bradish will ever be able to get because he's Garrett Cole.
Nobody else has taken a hold of this thing, and he's an ace.
Yeah,
he is an ace.
He's a true ace.
You can like or dislike Garrett Cole as much as you want. You can't deny that there's really nobody else aside from Kyle Bradish who can contend with him right now.
And it's impossible to pitch in New York. You saw Randy Johnson, what happened to him. There's things that happen to guys. They feel the pressure. They start to feel the spotlight. It's a small stadium. It's a really small stadium. And he's pitched unbelievably well.
You've seen what's happened to Giancarlo Stanton. If you look at it from the offense standpoint.
He's become a non-factor.
Yeah. I mean, every now and again, he'll hit a home run 118 miles an hour off the bat, but otherwise he's hitting 199. National League, I have Spencer Strider, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer. Look, Strider, he's got a 3.56 ERA, but he's the National League leader, the Major League leader in wins with 16, and he's National League leader in Ks with 245. Major League leader in Ks, 245. He could win the ERA. Makes me think that it might not be him. Blake Snell is the MLB leader in ERA. He's second in the National League in Ks, but he also leads the majors in walks, and he doesn't have nearly the innings pitched that Strider does. I think it might come down to those two guys. Justin Verlander traded to the American League. Max Scherzer traded to the American League, so they're out.
Scherzer was my pick for the NL, by the way.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about this. I have mine formatted really differently than yours, so that's why this is all a little bit odd and off. But Max Scherzer was my guy as well, and obviously, just like Jacob deGrom, Jacob deGrom certainly did not have as successful season, but now he's been traded, and things didn't exactly go the way Max Scherzer expected this season.
Yeah. Rookie of the Year in the American League, I picked Gunnar Henderson. He's going to win. And I had Grayson Rodriguez and Tristan Casas. I think Rodriguez could get votes if he continues to pitch the way he has since he came back in July. Josh Young getting hurt, that ended it for him. But
no doubt. I had Yoshida, who's had a good season by all means, but he certainly hasn't been Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah,
not at all.
National League, I picked Corbin Carroll, Kodai Senga, and Jordan Walker. Corbin Carroll's probably going to win.
He's going to win.
Kodai Senga's been really good.
He has. I just think it's harder for pitchers. I think it's a little bit different, and especially being on the Mets, as bad as they are, the Diamondbacks are seen as this upcoming new thing. They've got young guys. I think the everyone's going to like that a little bit more, and he's going to win Rookie of the Year.
Corbin Carroll, I think he's a shoe-in. Manager of the Year, who did you pick? Oh, you had the same guys that you picked. Manager of the Year, in the American League, I picked Matt Cartaro for the Royals, Dusty Baker for the Astros, Terry Francona for the Guardians. I fully believe Brandon Hyde's going to win.
Yes, he will win. There's almost no question about it at this point.
Who did you pick?
I had John Schneider in the American League, so not great. Well, the Blue Jays were also. I'll save that for a second later.
National League, I had Bob Melvin for the Padres, Buck Showalter for the Mets, Oliver Marmol for the Cardinals. I think Dave Roberts is winning it.
Dave Roberts would probably win it. I had Buck as my winner. And
who's the manager of the Braves? He might win it too.
What is this? Who is the manager of the Braves?
I can't even remember.
I'm not sure either. But you look at Buck, and he's probably never going to manage again, unfortunately.
I think he's going to get next year.
You think so?
They were talking about it on the radio. I think he's going to get next year.
Okay.
But if things go south
It's
again next year,
Snicker, by the way, isn't it?
Snicker, yes,
Snicker.
that's it. Comeback player of the year. In the American League, I took Anthony Rendon and Jacob deGrom. Rendon, 43 games, 60-day IL. Jacob deGrom, 6 starts, Tommy John surgery. I was way off. I have no idea who the comeback player of the year is going to be in the American League.
I don't know either. That's really even hard to think about. These predictions are always tough. I had Chris Sale as my American League guy.
Oh, yeah.
4.75 ERA through 15 games. Things didn't really go the way Chris Sale probably would have wanted this year. Not a comeback player of the year.
National League, I had Cody Bellinger and Wade Miley. Bellinger's winning. He's winning, and he's getting the bag this offseason.
100% Bellinger's winning that. I had another very poor pick. Tatis was my pick as comeback player of the year.
I mean, he's had a good year.
He's had a good year. I just don't think
Yelich has had a really good year, too.
Yelich has really turned it around to not what he was at MVP level, which he was just a few years ago, but he's been really good.
All right. And that's it. That's all.
That's what we got.
That's what we got. All right. Moving on to Take to Rake. Zach, you took Gunnar Henderson this past week. He slashed 304, 385, 391 with a 776 on base per OPS. 7 hits in 23 at bats, 2 doubles, 3 walks, no RBIs, no home runs, 3 strikeouts. I took Anthony Santander, 360, 385, 720, 1105 OPS, 9 for 25, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 10 RBIs. And then Ken Wyman took Adley Rutschman, 191, 261, 191, 451 OPS, 4 for 21, no extra base hits, 1 RBI, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. I won. Yeah. Anthony Santander was the guy. And this week I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to take Gunnar Henderson.
Okay.
He's got to be the guy for me. Who you got?
I'm going Ryan O'Hearn. I think he, after 2 hits last night, 2 impactful hits, I think he's going to get hot.
O'Hearn hit 350 over the last week. With 350 on base percentage, which means he didn't walk.
Yeah.
But he's back up above 300 again hitting. He's been a really good player.
The path to victory for me is always harder with O'Hearn, though, because he just doesn't play every day.
Yeah.
But now with Mountcastle being under the weather, maybe that allows him to play an extra game.
Yeah.
That could be the case. So that'd be good for me.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't have any final thoughts. I do think I have a Ravens final thought. I don't know if you want to go there, but on the Orioles specifically, I think Kyle Gibson's got to get right. I think that's one of the most significant things that's going to have to happen. He's been, 9 earned runs just a couple games ago, 7 earned runs just a couple games ago. These things just have not been great for him lately. So I think Kyle Gibson's got to get right if they want to keep pushing in September.
I agree. Really think that the Orioles rotation could use a bit of a kickstart. Again, Bradish, Kramer, Grayson, really good. I'd love to see John Means come up and be a difference maker down the stretch. I think the bullpen's in a position to be really, really good the rest of the way. Want to see the offense get a little bit better. And I'm wondering if Colton Cowser is going to get a start tonight.
I would think so.
And if he plays, I want to see how he does his second time around. He didn't hit very well down in Norfolk. His batting average dropped 20 points while he was down there. But we'll see, man. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a break, and you come back up like Grayson did, and maybe he comes up and shoves. We'll see. Other than that, no final thoughts. We'll save our Ravens' final thoughts for next Saturday because it'll be the day before their first game of the season.
Let's do it.
Thank you to Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Really good today with Stan. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our fans. Without you, we certainly don't have a show. Thank you to Zach Goodman for all of the great work that he does week in and week out on the Batter, especially traveling from D.C. where he lives with his girlfriend while he's going to grad school.
I was coming from
being an intern in the U.S. Senate. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't know if you wanted that on the air, but I said it. Proud of you, man. You're doing big things in life.
Appreciate
man.
it.
You got a
moving up.
Really bright future. So, all right, guys. See you next week. We'll be talking Orioles. We'll be talking Ravens. And it's just going to be a really great weekend for Baltimore sports. Until next week, see ya.